Right, hello, hello, hello. How's it going there, Alistair? How's it going there, Park of the Pug? How are you? Echo, hello, hello. Citrus, hello. Did I end up figuring out the crane yesterday? Yep, I'm doing, yep, got the not really a crane, it's more winches now. Did a little work here this morning. Not much. I am playing with the rocket glitch. I'll show you the results of the rocket glitch. So, I've got it floating higher now in the water by a little bit. I also weighted it a little bit more. Again, I didn't want the weight to go down really. So I've added weight blocks underneath all the way in the belly. And then I put in the rocket glitch, so that should keep stability good. And then now we can load and unload whilst in the water. Generally speaking, when you're sitting, you can have the pontoons out of the water. Kind of depends. The reason they do this is you don't want the drag of the pontoon. So when you start moving, you don't want the extra drag. So what's going to happen is once you get some airflow over the wings, you can use the ailerons to level the plane out. And then the pontoons will actually come up out of the water as you're level, as you make, and then if the plane shifts, then the pontoon will touch. So we get a little pontoon out of the water like it should be. And it sits better now. Work on some of the stuff I need for being in the water today. I also want this deck up attitude like it is. That's going to give us an increased angle of attack when we start moving, so that it's easier to get up on plane, so we don't plow into the water, we go up on top of the water, and also it's helpful for having some angle of attack on the wing for taking off. So why not use the pivot glitch? Pivot glitch adds a lot of lag. Not a lot of lag, but pivot glitch can add lag. Pivot glitch can also add this bouncy. It adds some bounciness that I don't like. It adds some weird unwanted behavior, then puts, like, say for example, I put the pivot glitch in, and I put 10 pivots in. I've now, let's say I have 20 subgrids already on this plane. Now I have 30 subgrids. If I then try to build, say, a crane, that crane is on subgrid 31. So that's one of the reasons I'm not a huge fan of pivot glitch and pretty much never use it. It really goes to the point where I think it adds resources because the game's trying to do more subgrids, which can potentially cause lag. It also ends up where you get some strange behavior. I would say that is a full-on glitch. I think, I'm trying to think of the way to put the rocket, the rocket glitch. The rocket glitch, I don't think is really necessarily a glitch. A glitch would be an unintended behavior in the way something works. So the unintended behavior is by adding subgrids, you're able to essentially trick the buoyancy to make something more buoyant. With the rocket glitch, what you're doing is you're subtracting mass. So, for example, if I made this plane as light as it is with me subtracting the mass, it would perform the same. So currently, before I did what I did today, this weighed 14,000. So if I were to make this weigh 7,000, it would float like it currently does, for example. What I then did was I added weight blocks. The weight blocks brought the weight up to like 17,000. And then I went back in with the rocket glitch, and I subtracted enough weight so that it behaves as though it's like at 7,000 mass. So it has, I think, a more predictable and reasonable behavior, because essentially all you're doing is you're adding mass somewhere else, and then you're subtracting the total mass. So this is good for being able to move weight, to be able to shift center of gravity, stuff like that. So we will have to see how. I did do a flight already with the subtracted mass, and it's working fine. Let's look in the editor real quick. I want to check some stuff. One thing I did, which I don't know if I'm necessarily going to want to do, I dragged the CG quite a bit down by adding, you can't really, oh, you can't see it underneath. This is what I added for mass. I'm probably not actually going to add it that low. I might go ahead and put it in the floor. That's probably more likely what I'm going to end up doing. I want to get that center CG actually probably up a little bit. We'll see. If I can get it more toward the wings, the better. But this was mostly just trying to run it and get a test. So let's look. So like right now we're at 17.9. So at 17.9, I've added a lot of extra mass, and then I've subtracted it off, which I probably didn't even need to add the mass. Let's play with this a little bit. Let's get rid of this mass, because I really don't want to drag that center of gravity down. That could be problematic. It isn't. I've flown this. It works fine. So I don't know why I'm screwing with it too much, but let's play with it a little bit. I really don't need to add that mass. Generally in boats I'll do that. I'll add the mass really low because of course in a boat you want your center of gravity to be as low as possible. And then by using the rocket glitch you can then subtract off the total mass. So it allows you to shift mass. That's why I prefer that. So like this is now at 14.36. Alright, let's go ahead and I'm going to quickly save this. Save it over this one. So like if we look at where the rockets are, they are right. I've got two of them, one right there and one right there. And that allows me to put them where I want them and kind of change the mass on that. All right, did I save this? I believe I did. Let me save one more time. So that's why I prefer the rocket. It has less glitchy behavior because I don't really estimate it as a glitch. What's happening is you're going into the by putting in negative fuel mass, you're just subtracting mass essentially. And so the pivot glitch is, I would say, a full-on glitch. It is exploiting an unintended behavior of a part to get a benefit you want. By going and deleting mass, essentially all you're doing is saying, hey, the rocket motor with 100% fuel weighs 100 kilograms. If I put negative 100 fuel in there, it now weighs negative 100 kilograms. So if my boat weighs 300 kilograms and I put in a negative rocket mass of 100, I now have a boat that weighs 200 kilograms and it behaves as though it weighs 200 kilograms. You know, because I've, let me see if I might have an old version of it. So like this is way too floaty now. So all I need to do is change the numbers. But this is with it, you know, with the same numbers with that weight out of there. This is actually what would happen IRL in a lot of these planes. You would have it sit on the pontoon like that. Now it's floating way too high. The pontoon can't overcome it. So what we'll do is I'll show you how I fix it. All right, so yes, update that. All right, so let's go ahead and so this is the XML for the amphib. And so right here I have a fuel factor of negative 5,500 is what I ended up with when I had all those weight blocks in there. So what we're going to do is put in 5,500. We'll replace it with 3,500, replace all, save. Okay, let's go back to the game. Let me get rid of display cap. All right, let's go ahead. So now it's too light. And so just go to the add-on editor. Actually, I don't want to be there. Let's stand by. Let me get up on the dock here, or else it's going to launch on top of my head. And that's going to cause problems. All right, so we'll go back in. Did I save it? I must have saved it. Let me just double check. Yep, it's saved. All right. All right, and then we'll grab that, and we'll put in the new one. So that's all you're doing, is you're essentially subtracting mass. And it's, you know, if I were to guess how the game's doing it, essentially each part has a mass, and then it calculates the mass, and that's how it's calculating where it sits in the water column. And so all you're doing is you're saying that the entire weight is less. All right, so that's still too high there, which makes sense. All right, let's go ahead. Let's go down to, let's try 2,500. So I want to get it back to where it was. This is also with full fuel in there. Did I save that again? Keep forgetting. Did I save it? Yep, I saved it. All right, and that is sitting where I want it again. So the difference is when I had the extra, all that extra mass, why is it leaning so much? Did I screw up? I may have knocked up both rockets. So I got to check it. That looks like I didn't get both rockets. That would probably be why. Let me check, make sure the fuel's not imbalanced. Because if I don't have enough fuel, it might not have spawned correctly. Nope, that's definitely it. So it's probably the one side of the rocket got done and the other one didn't. That's probably why it's like this. We'll fix this. Let's look at it, see what's up. All right, let's look for... So we'll, let's see. Find next, find next. Okay, why is this now leaning funky? You know what it probably is? It probably is the fact that the center of gravity is nice and high now. Let's go look in the workbench. So I probably want that to sit a little bit more level. Yeah. So I probably do want to add some mass in there. Let's go back to... Let's go back to... I don't know. I didn't really have any problems with it before. Let's weight it up then. So I'm actually probably going to want to do this because what's going to happen is on the cargo deck is reasonably high. So the problem is if I don't put the center of gravity low enough, when I put cargo in this, it is going to want to tip. So I'm going to definitely go back and re-weight it. So let's go ahead and go back to 5,500. It worked, and I decided to screw with it. Let's save that. Let's go back in here. And let's fix it. So what we'll do is, let's get rid of that. All right, let's go back, and I'm going to add the weight back in that I took out. So I've already flown it with the weight added in there. It has no flight problems at all. So just going to add that weight back in. Again, I would really love it if we could get it so that we could paint that diamond. Something I think would be a crowd pleaser. That's the sort of thing where I think the devs should always keep that stuff in their back pocket, is little crowd pleasers like that. Now, it could be something more challenging than what it is, but it's like having a little crowd pleaser every once in a while you throw in there is good. Alright, so that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and save this. And so now so essentially, like I said, all the rocket is doing is by putting a negative fuel mass in there is essentially, you know, you're subtracting off weight. And that allows you to focus the weight where you want. So I'm moving the center of gravity down, and I'm removing the total mass. So, like, where the center of gravity is remains why am I doing that? Where the center of gravity is remains constant because all you're doing is moving it. You're not changing it. The center of gravity is the same. All right, so that's back to where it was, and so now it's unlikely to tip over as much. If it does, I wonder if there's something screwed up, because this should not be tipping over now. Why is it tipping over? That's interesting, why it was not tipping over before. I gotta see what's up. Why is this tipping over now? Because the center of gravity is very low now, it should be starting to kind of default to sitting up. Let me check something. Make sure that this doesn't have a hole in it on the, English. Fuck. Gotta make sure that pontoon doesn't have a hole in it. I did move the pontoons recently, so make sure I didn't put a hole in the pontoon. Alright, let's check them. Come on, come on. Move, move, move. So it keeps favoring that one side, so I gotta see what's up with that, why it favors that right side. Right here. Yep, 100% put a hole in it. Alright. I put a hole in it when I moved it, so that would do it every time. Alright, so what is it, one more level down? Yeah, that's what happened, was I didn't copy it correctly, so that would be why it was tipping over. I didn't copy it correctly. Alright. Get that fixed. That everything this time? It is. Okay. That makes sense, that why that was tipping over now. So I could probably get rid of that weight. I'll try again with getting rid of that weight, and we'll see what happens. Cut that. All right, clear it. Could just copy over it, but this is a better way to make sure that I don't accidentally get something in there I don't want in there. So let's try it without that weight. We'll do an adjustment. So the reason why I'm screwing with this weight is center of gravity wise, we're pretty good here with general stability. But on an airplane, you want to have that CG closer to the propellers. Now, I don't have much of a pitching moment on land, but I will get it in the water. So let's actually not be too hasty with the weight. Let's go ahead and save this. Let's go test it again on the add-on editor. That definitely explains why it was floating funky, because it made sense that if I changed the center of gravity, moved it up, the plane would want to tip over. But then when I fixed it again, that doesn't make any sense. So that's why I went and then did that. Because it then would speak to, it always kept going to the right side. If it was a center of gravity problem, it wouldn't care. It would go left or right. And so by picking one side, it kind of made me think it was something with the pontoon. All right, so that floats nicely right where I want it, right there on the top of these fenders for the gear. That sits nicely now. All right, good. So we're in good shape there. The pontoons really don't have to support much weight. All they're doing is keeping it balanced. Because, you know, an airplane's very well balanced. So, like, for example, you can easily lift, once the airplane's in the air, it does not take much force to roll it. And so that's essentially what we're dealing with here in the water. All right, so that's pretty good. Let's start working on some stuff I need for this to work in the water. Because currently it will nosedive like crazy, so we got to fix that. All right, so what I'll probably do is it needs to be outside of the body. Let's quickly catch up with chat. Yeah, the problem, it's kind of a cool feature, but we're already as wide as we can get on this. I've already had to shrink the wings in one, so yeah, it's a cool thing to do, folding pontoons. But, you know, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's, I don't know, and it adds a lot of complexity, but I kind of like this one with static pontoons. But yeah, it is a cool feature, and some things I do like to put them in. Yeah, I wouldn't call anything XML a glitch. You're changing data files essentially. That's, you know, so I wouldn't call XML a glitch. I think, you know, like I said, a glitch is an unintended behavior. You know. Yeah, I would say more like an edit. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Oh, good. Somebody to boot on Twitch. They're trying to sell views. Hello, Sergeant. Hello over there. Let me see. Good, we can get rid of somebody who's on, Yeah, all you're doing is, so what you want to do is, I'll add a new rocket to show you. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but essentially all you would do is you come in here, you put a rocket motor on. You go in here, and what I usually do is I'll go to fuel at 99%. When you then open it up in the, when you then open up the XML file, you want to come in here, and what I'll generally search for is fuel factor. So if you search for, we'll do a search for fuel factor. So you want to find fuel factor, and here it is right here. So if you go ahead and we read the whole string, it's solid rocket nozzle small, that's its dimensions. Fuel factor, and it will show 0.99, 0.99, because we dragged it down to 99%. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put in a negative number. So that's essentially, we're subtracting off. Now, I don't know if we're actually subtracting off 11,000, weight or kilograms or whatever, we want to consider it. That would make sense to me, that we're subtracting that off, but I don't know if the rocket nozzle weighs 1 when it's full. So, but essentially, you're just picking a number, you're increasing that number until it subtracts off what you want. You can make airships with this, essentially subtracting off all of the weight, and do stuff like that. Or you can completely negate the mass and have an airship weigh 0 and make it neutrally buoyant, essentially. Hello, Variante. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Sergeant in both places. Plane will get more nimble the less fuel you have. For example, like we went out of Abilene one day with a 135, which had the same engines as the 145, but was much, much lighter. And it was only a 35-minute flight to Dallas, and we were able to stand the plane up on its tail and climb at like 11,000 feet per minute because the plane was so light that it acts really nimbly. No, it does not show it in the editor. Nope. Nope, it doesn't show it in the editor at all. You just kind of have to infer it, and best thing to do is just keep doing what I was doing. Keep testing it, see where it sits, see if it sits where you want it to. All right, so let's see, what was I doing? Okay, so in order for a fin to work, for example, here. Let's say I want this fin to interact with the water. All right, if I put it on the side here, it will interact with the water. All right, if I put it inside the hull, it will not interact with the water. So if I put it inside of the landing bay here, it will interact with the water. And so one way is I can hide these by putting them in here. And so what I want to do here is when we're in the water, when we touch the water, I want this. There's a bunch of ways to do this, but this is how I'm going to start doing it on this. When I touch the water with the airplane, I want the fins to go up, and I want them to get the plane up and out of the water. That's what I want. And so naturally, you have hydrodynamic forces that will do this. And so what I already have here with my landing gear. Let me make sure we're all good here. I gotta figure out why the landing gear is not moving correctly. Let me quickly go through this. Okay, it got disconnected. All right, let's see. Where's gear? Let me find my... Did I not have a gear controller in here at all? Okay, that's why that nose wheel isn't moving. Okay, that's fine. So what I'm going to start to do is put the fins in here in the gear base. So because this is not sealed, this will act as though it's in the water when it's in the water. So what we're going to do here is, if I can frickin' see anything. Oh my god. Alright, I can't see shit. Alright, there we go. I still can't see anything. Alright. Alright, something is in the way there. What is in the way? Oh, it doesn't like being on top of that. Okay. So I can't have these in the way too much, so I gotta kind of eyeball these. Let's see. Trying to hide them in there, but I really don't want to have to take... let's do this. Let us cut that out. Go like that. Okay, 3... and 1 above it. All right, 3 and 1 above it. All right. Alright, so I want the fins to increase the angle of attack, which will be like that when we hit the water. So 1, 2, and 3, and 1 above it. And then we can go ahead and cut out the pancums. Alright, so that now pastes those 3 fins. Oh my god. 8 fins? How many did I put in there? 8 fins. Wow, we're having speaking problems today. Alright, so that's back in, and now the fins are in. So when we hit the water, it's going to fold those fins are going to go down, and it's going to try to lift the nose up out of the water. Nose is most important. We might just be able to do it with the nose. We'll see. We'll start with that. So real quick, what we'll do is we'll put in a water sensor, and likely, let's put it here. Yeah. So put a fluid meter, liquid meter. Keep changing names on things. All right, there we go. All right, we're just gonna grab a quick blank micro. All right, let's see. Water fins, okay. Let's do this for now. I may or may not do something with that. So let's go. Number input, that's going to be water sensor. All you're doing is if the liquid meter reads over 1, it is in the water. Pretty simple. Number output, water fins. Okay. This simulates kind of the natural hydrodynamic forces of, like, you know, increased density of the water. So when the water sensor is, we could just do this, because as long as it's over 1 liter, we don't even need the microcontroller. Let's get simpler. The more simple, the better. So liquid level here. Actually, the problem is going to be we'll go negative. Yeah, we don't want to do that. We could just do an ABS on that. Let's go back. And we're going to have one because it will go negative, and then it'll start pulling the nose down. So we don't want to do that. I got to fix it then. All right. Yeah, let's just do this. So the whole purpose of trying to get rid of a microcontroller is pretty silly. So really, we could just do, let's just do a function. So what this is going to do is give us the absolute value, ABS of X. All right, so it's always going to give us a positive number. So when we're in the water is going to be more than 1 liter. So it's going to be more than 1. So that's going to give a positive number to the water fins, which is going to pick our nose up. When we get out of the water, it's going to read a negative number because we are out of the water. And so that's going to, that will still read a positive. Let's not do absolute. Let's just do this. Because I don't want it to affect our flight characteristics. So if it's greater than 0, let's just do numerical switch box. And so when we're in the water, it's just going to put our fins to essentially 100%. Let's do that. That'll be easier. Try and make it elegant, and it's probably a mistake to be doing. All right, liquid level there, water fins here. So that's one problem we have to correct for, is the drag of the water as we enter the water, or we're trying to take off from the water. The drag is going to cause our nose to go into the water. We want this to do the opposite, to pick our nose up out of the water. IRL, the shape of the hull would do that. So here we're just going to use the fins to help pick the bow up out of the water, the nose in this case, out of the water. And then we need to correct for center of gravity, center of thrust issues. So what we're going to have as a problem is the center of gravity is here, the center of thrust is here. So the engines are going to try to pull the nose down into the water and tip us in. So what we're going to use is the pitch component on the propellers, which is here, 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 and here. And that is going to lift them up. And so what we'll do is, for now, we're going to manually control that with a throttle. All right. So there, oh, Jesus Christ. Let's see, throttle, and we'll go to the pitch on the props. Pitch, 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 pitch. And if we look here, the pitch is going down. All right, and so because the pitch goes down, we need a negative number. So we'll actually just flip this. And we'll go ahead and we'll do -1. It's definitely not going to be negative. You know what? Let's do a keypad. I always do throttles, and I think a keypad's better. Let's do a keypad. I'm going to enter in exactly what I want. That's what I'll do. So it's going to be a negative number, and that will help to... So what they do IRL is they tilt the engines. So the engines, when you have a high wing like this and the center of gravity is here, essentially all they're doing is they're going to tilt the engines. The engines are going to be tilted up slightly. And so that counteracts that center of thrust, center of gravity problem. Now, we can't effectively tilt the engines well in game, but what we can do is tilt the propeller, which works just as well. I wish we could do it with ducted fans. That would be a really good addition. All right, so that's pretty good. Let's save it. Catch up chat here, and I'll go take a quick coffee break in a second. Then we'll do a test here. Hello, Rasmus. Hello, hello. Hello, Gwen. Let's quickly go through chat. How can I play it? I don't know what you mean. Play the game, go on Steam, buy the game. Game's 40% off. Then you can play it. Hello, Rasmus. Hello. Thanks, Echo, for hanging out. We'll see you. All right, I'm going to go take a quick coffee break and use the facilities, and I shall return here. Let's see if we can find the coffee break. There it is. All right. Be right back. All right, I am returned. So let's go ahead. Let me fix that real quick so I don't have to do it later. All right, good. So we'll increase the propeller pitch as necessary, and the fins should automatically go. So let's go ahead and make sure I hooked everything up. All right, let's see. That's there. That's there. We're good. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and save it. These are the things that need to be done for a seaplane to work in game. Let's go ahead, add-on editor. Would be nice if we had one like an actual seaplane base would be cool that has the same dimensions as the blue hangar. Because then I wouldn't have to be doing this crap where I have to spawn it. So I'll make a video on it instead of just bitching about it. I'll actually make a video and a post on the feature request, which I think is a more helpful thing to do than just complain about it. Fuck, what the... Landing gear just fell out. That's fine. I don't need it in there right now anyway. Let me just... I can't see for shit. All right, those are in. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to actually test out my prop controller here. Let's make sure infieldy out, electricity is on. It is okay. Let's go ahead. We'll do a -1. All right, let's go up there and check it. As you can see, they are all angled up. That's because they're working. It's hard to see the propeller. I can see them visually. They're working. You can see the blades all torqued out, so we're good. All right, let's start with a -1. -0.1 rather. -0.1. -1 is way too much. All right, so that's going to try to account for the center of thrust being above the center of gravity so the engines don't pull us into the water. Let's put gear up. Start getting working here on bats and power connects and everything. All right, let's go. I'm going to just turn that shit on anyway. We don't need it on right now, but I'm going to start up this up. Don't want this to take 100 years. Alright, we're all good. Alright, let's put 1 notch of flaps in there. Let's get those starboards going. Plane now sits where I want it to in the water. It's at the angle that I want it to be. As you can see how it's like alternating between the pontoons, that's exactly what would happen in real life. Again, you don't want those really in the water because it's going to cause drag when you start moving. So that's pretty normal what would happen. It's kind of cool in amphibs as well, or seaplanes in general, is they'll actually use those pontoons to help them turn. As they'll use the aileron to dip the pontoon in the water. That'll cause a lot of drag, and so if you want to make a right turn, you dip your pontoon in, it starts causing drag and helps you turn to the right. Alright, so if my nose starts going well in the water, as I thrust up here, it's telling me that I need to increase the propeller pitch. So hopefully we get clear of the dock. If we don't, all I need to do is drop down some thrust off of one of the engines and we can turn with asymmetrical thrust. So I'm going to do that now. So what are we currently at? 340. Knock that power down a couple notches. And we'll start turning. We'll start straightening out here. You see, that's asymmetrical thrust. We use this all the time IRL to get airplanes turned. All right, let's get that back up. What are we at? 411. All right, and we are synced. All right, so now all our engines are synced. All right, so far pretty good at this thrust setting. We are not nosing in to the water. So as you can see, I just increased the thrust. Notice the nose tried dropping down. It's going to try it again. See the tail's picking up and the nose going down. As long as I can overcome it with my elevators, we're good. So as you see, now I'm at max elevator and we're still pitching that nose down. And we're only at, we're not even showing yet. So I need to go to, let's go to -0.2. So now we're going to keep doing this until I can get that nose to come up. So -0.3. So now we're letting the propellers help to lift it -0.4. Because I'm at, I'm not going fast enough to have the elevators really do anything. But as I increase thrust, it's going to be worse. So negative 0.5. Let's see. Negative. Let's just go way up there. Alright, we're at 20 knots. As I start to increase, you notice now my ailerons are starting to take effect, which means my elevator is going to take effect. There we go. And what are we at there? 0.7's probably excessive. Let's do a landing here. We'll leave that in. Let's go ahead and drop the flaps all the way in. Alright. And we'll start to... We're coming around 60 knots is going to be my approach speed on this plane. The slower you get your approach speed, the better, just because you're going to be cutting down drag. Now, the problem is the plane's going to be very floaty because I have that much propeller in there. So what I'll probably end up doing is tying it to the water sensor, so when it hits the water, the propellers will angle up. That's probably what I'm doing. The reason is, as you can see, I'm really pushing down here, and I'm having to descend at an insane angle of attack because the propellers are too high. And so I'm probably going to do it off the water sensor again, so when it hits the water, that's when it will knock them up. You know, the other thing you can do is put them on flaps, but the problem is what I'm having to do here is angle down way too much, and it's going to cause floating, and I have to land with a nose-down attitude, which is not what I want to be doing. So you see how I have this nose-down attitude, so what I would want to do is let's try, like if I zeroed those out, you can see this is the attitude I want to be arriving at. That's what I want it to be doing, and then when I hit the water, let's see what happens. See how it noses in? Alright, so that's what we want to prevent. So let's go ahead. Negative 0.7 worked. Oh, it's add-on again, I forget. So we'll go ahead and we'll add that to the system. Alright, let me look. Alright, so let's go ahead and where are we at here? Alright, let's go ahead and we'll do the same thing here. Alright, so if that's greater, we flip. And then this is going to be prop pitch. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. This is my preferred way to do this. Right, and it's going to be negative 0.7. Let's do 7.5. I still want, so the thing, if you notice, when I hit about 35 knots, I was trying to, the plane was leaning on that right pontoon, right? And as soon as we hit 35 knots, you'll notice we leveled out. And the reason we leveled out was the airflow over the control surfaces was high enough that we got what's known as control surface effectiveness, is we had enough air over it to actually get enough control surface to be able to use our ailerons in that case to actually control the airplane. So, for example, the elevator was doing nothing until I got up to 35. So that's why we need such a high prop pitch number, is the elevator's doing nothing until we hit 35. All right. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, there was a weird, like, it smelled like birthday candles. I had the coffee pot going, so I was just checking on that, make sure that wasn't a problem, and it was, I don't know what it is. I think somebody was roofing the other day, so I just want to make sure that the coffee pot didn't catch on fire. As you do. Let's see. Alright, prop pitch. So prop pitch is in there, and so this is going to, when we're in the water, it's going to flip the props up. Let's see. Negative to negative 0.75. So that will then control for that. And so I've done it off the flaps before, and like I said, the problem is you start with that. You've got you have this huge nose down attitude because the propellers are trying to lift you up, and so you have to do an artificially low nose down attitude to fix that. So now only when we're in the water will that happen. So let's go ahead. I'll delete this out. I can always add it back if I need it. All right, let's go ahead and save this. Let's go over there. And we'll put it back in. And I'm going to rotate it too because I keep putting it in like this. That's annoying. Just going to rotate it so I don't have to do asymmetrical thrust. What I could actually do too is just move it out to there. Yeah, let's just do that. All right. All right, so now the propellers, because we're in the water, as you can see, they should be angled up. And then the fin should also be going. So let's get in here. Let's get in. Bing bong. Power connect. Gear can come up. All right, flaps going to first notch. Let's go ahead and, not that I care about parking brakes, but they're coming off. I have two just because my system, I had not finished that on Albatross. Let's start spooling. How's it going there, Moylan? How are you? Thank you. Glad you're enjoying it. We'll see you later, this CG. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, playing with a nose down attitude is not a good deal. You want the nose up because you want, you know, it to skip on the top of the water. You don't want it to dive in. It's bad juju if you do that. All right, so the other thing too is like make sure your engine's stabilized. They're all, you know, coming up the same. Notice they're falling again. They spool up as they put the load on. They spool down. This is something you have to do in real life. You don't just start an engine and screw. And a lot of people do that. And they're like, "Wow, plane doesn't behave. Game suck," you know. So it's like you got to be careful of that. All right, so now the propellers are pitched up. The fins are also keeping our nose out. So let's go ahead and I'm going to make sure we have no trim in there. Now, IRL, you would trim some in to help. We do that in real life. All right, so I'm going to lay off the elevator and see what it does. So I'm starting to thrust up. And you notice it's actually picking my nose up a little bit, which is good. So it's pitching that nose up. And that's why that water sensor is in the back. All right, now we're starting to gain some speed. It's pitching my nose down a little bit because the engines are high compared to center of gravity. Now as we start to gain speed, you notice I have full elevator trying to keep us flat, which is fine because as soon as, now watch, I'm trying to roll to the left, can't do it. Once we speed up, watch what happens. Nose is coming down again, but watch what happens when we hit about 35. There we go. I have control now. I have enough airflow over my control surfaces that I can now control the roll and the pitch of my craft. I'm going to start speeding up again. I like that it gives me a little bounce here because as it's coming out of the water, that's actually pretty natural. Let's start spooling up the thrust. The problem I'm running into here is the propeller oscillation is stressing out my engines. So. Trying to spool up a little bit more here. Why are we not spooled? We're full spool here. Trying to get the nose up here. See, I come out of the water, and that gets rid of the prop pitch. There we go. All right. So that's actually reasonably natural feeling. I need to just change it just a hair so it doesn't do that. But that is nice. I even like the bouncing. You'll notice when the seaplanes really take off like that, because as they're starting to ride on the top of the waves, right, it wants to sink down into the dip. All right, so now the propellers automatically get rid of their pitch. The fins in the nose automatically get rid of their pitch. All right, so I've got something we can do to fix that up even better. So let's go ahead and let's just teleport, and then I'll close down the add-on. Again, I would really like the devs to give us a seaplane base that has a full-size blue hangar. I'll do a video on it. Because that would make it so that instead of me having to put it in an add-on, because a lot of people are building seaplanes, it makes sense. Again, and the devs are open to stuff. They've been doing it. It's just, you know, you got to show to them that enough people want this thing that it's worth their time and effort to do. Because, again, they have to take from somewhere else time-wise, you know. All right, so what we're going to do here is add a simple piece of logic in here. So the issue is this. Let me quickly, we'll do a paint and I'll show you. Catch up with chat too in a second. If you're new and it takes me a second to answer chat, as you can see, I'm doing a bunch of stuff, so I will get to you when I can. I'm not ignoring you. It's just I got a lot of this logic stuff. If I do not have full attention when I'm doing it, it becomes a problem. All right, so the thing is, what's happening is the propellers are pitched up, right? As we go down the water. Let's see here. Let's do this. Do I have a picture? Let's see. I think I do. Do I have a side profile of this? We're not gonna do super duper. But so like you have your propellers here. So let's say that's the propeller. All right. And we also have the fins in the boat. And so the issue becomes this: as soon as the water sensor that's in the rear comes out of the water, it's essentially stopping all the benefit that we're getting. And so when we're in the water, the propellers are pitching up. As soon as it stops, that goes away. And so as we come out of the water, we lose the benefit. That's why we're bouncing back down into the water. And so we really only need a couple seconds to make this work. And so I decided to give up on the... I gave up on the diagram anyway, so I was going to do it, but it's silly. So what we're going to do here is... we're going to put in two conditions here. So this water sensor, when it's greater than 0, it affects it. So what we're going to do is put in another condition. And we're going to put in a timer. And we're just going to do a TON timer. And we're going to do that. So when the water sensor is greater than 0, let's see. All right, and so let's say 3 seconds. So we'll do a property. Let's do time out of water, 3 seconds. All right. So what's going to happen is when we're out of the water, so when the water sensor is not greater than 0, that means that we're out of the water. It's going to start a timer. So as soon as we get out of the water, it's going to start a timer. Okay, for 3 seconds. When that expires, it's then going to shut off our water fins and our prop pitch. So we're going to still get the benefit of the prop and the water for 3 seconds after we get out of the water. Because what it's doing is it's helping us lift out of the water, and then as soon as we get out of the water, it shuts them off and we drop back into the water. So we're coming out, we're going in. We're coming out, we're going in. We're coming out, we're going in. All right, and so... and I think what we're going to do is I'm going to add some variability in this so it's slower. You don't want instant stuff. It puts a lot of stress in your engines. You want progressive, so we're going to make it progressive as well. So for the logic here, we want these to flip when the water sensor is greater than 0 and not been out of the water for this. So what we'll do is a Boolean. So when the water sensor is X and not, and we'll just do Z, W. All right, and then we'll plug that there. So what's going to happen is we'll kind of go through this logic-wise. So we're sitting in the water. So the water sensor is greater than 0. Okay, so that's going to go through. Now, because we're in the water, it's not tripping this, so the timer doesn't start. As soon as we get out of the water, right, that's no longer going to be, let's see. That's going to be problematic, stand by. I have to think of this for a second. I could do this backwards, so I'm trying to think of the air condition. Because as soon as we get out of the water, this is going to fail out. Let's do this backwards. So let's try this. So let's see. All right, so what this would do is when the water sensor is not greater than 0, so when we are essentially out of the water and the timer has been out of the water, let's see. So when we've been out of the water for 3 seconds and the water sensor is out for 3 seconds, yep, that's what I want. It's then going to trip this. Now the difference is we want to make this backwards now, so we'll start in that default position. We'll walk through the logic here, and we'll go like that. So what's going to happen here, we'll go through it. So when we're sitting in the water is greater than 0. Okay, so that will not trigger us to go. So we're going to start with the fins at where they're supposed to be. So if we're in the water, right, and the water is going to be greater than 0, that's not going to trip the system. So we're going to stay with the fins in the correct position. As soon as we get out of the water sensor is no longer greater than 0. It's less than 0. So that's going to trip condition A. When we trip condition A, when we're out of the water, it's then going to start a timer. It's going to time for 3 seconds. So once we've been in the water for 3 seconds and once we've been out of the water for 3 seconds and we're still out of the water, it's then going to flip the fins off. All right, now I don't want this to be an on-off switch, so what we're going to do is we're going to have an up-down counter. We'll do 0.001. We'll enable this. This one here is going to be, what is it going to? 1. Max of 1. All right. Reset value is going to be 1. Let's just do it like this for now, and then I'll do up-down counters later. Yeah, that's what I'll do. All right. All right, so now this is just to get rid of the bouncing, frankly. All right, let's save that. Catch up a chat here before we take off. All right, see ya. New ones coming in. Oh, stop. All right, let's catch up a chat here. Alistair asked for me to go over the bearing thing. I'll take a look at it. Just remind me if I don't get to it in a minute. Hello, Fiat. It's not. It has nothing to do with stupidity. It has everything to do with you got to take the time and learn it. You know, it's nobody's born with this knowledge. You just have to work at it. You know. There's nothing to do with that. You know. Take the time, learn it. Again, there's no shortcut. You know, it's you gotta. You know, we all had to learn the logic. We all had to learn everything. You just have to do it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. You start to think about how to solve your problems. It's all time and effort. No shortcuts. All right, so let's let them stabilize. So now what's going to happen is the fins and the propellers should stay in the up position until we've been out of the water for 3 seconds. So instead of bouncing for a long time, we should hopefully be able to get out of the water, and then after 3 seconds, we'll lose that effectiveness. Now, this is actually kind of cool, and it mimics real life, because you get ground effect when you're close to the water. What's going to happen is when we get up and out of the water, we stay in ground effect for about 3 seconds effectively. And then once we're out of ground effect, it's going to actually give us we're gonna get a little bit of a sink because we lose some of that lift. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. We've got a set in pitch. I'm going to go full elevator. Start to increase our thrust. So that's the propellers trying to pick us up out of the water. We're going very slow. The drag is not very much. It's not trying to put the nose down. So since the drag is very little, the propellers, as you can see, are lifting the nose. Now, as I start to increase the thrust, notice the nose will go back down. The thrust of the engines is enough to start to overcome that. See, now the nose is starting to come back down. All right. Start to speed up a little here. All right, so now you notice nose is coming down. The thrust of the engine is starting to try to push us into the ground. Now I cannot use my ailerons yet. As we start to accelerate, now I can. And there we go, right out of the water. Now, after 3 seconds, all that stuff is gone. Bingo, we're good. All right, let's do a landing. Now, as soon as we hit the water, we'll fulfill one of the conditions. The condition being that, hey, you're in the water. All right, once we fulfill that condition of, hey, you're in the water, it's going to push the props up, and it's going to push the... I'm stalling. Again, that stall feels very natural to me. It's like when people are like, the aerodynamics sucks in game. It's like, I don't know. What do I know? It feels pretty realistic to me. All right, let's touch down, and bingo. See, we just touched down. Notice how the nose picked back up? So let's start to go back down in. And I'm going to pull the thrust as soon as we touch down. And there we go. Beautiful. Now, of course, we stopped so much faster than we would IRL. Nothing we can do about that. It's just the drag in game is higher than it is in real life. You can bitch about it all day, or you can just live with it. You know, and that's kind of my whole thought process is, again, you know, if they changed the drag, it wouldn't bother me. I would go back and I'd fix, or if they changed buoyancy, it wouldn't bother me. I'd go back and I'd fix builds because I think it's in service of making the game better. But they can't do that anymore. Is too much of the community lost their minds, literally did death threats against them. And so they're not going to make big changes anymore because the community demonstrated that they're not mature enough to deal with it, frankly. You know, and that's why they won't do that stuff again. You know? Community demonstrated that they can't take it. So one thing I should probably add, it's going to be probably a very rare use case, is I do have thrust reversers in this plane. I'm trying to decide. I'll probably disallow thrust Jesus Christ. Two things I could do. One is I'd have to change the I'd have to invert the propeller pitch and the fin pitch. Like right now, I cannot put it in reverse. I'm going to leave it this way. In the water, I cannot put the engines in reverse. On the ground, I will be able to. So I'll just do that instead. Let's do one more takeoff. We've got to raise our flaps to takeoff setting. All right, let's do it from the cockpit here. Should be pretty simple. Start adding thrust. We expect not to get any control surface effectiveness until we hit about 35 knots. So you notice I cannot steer us really until we get up to about 35 knots. That happens IRL. Now we're above 35. I'm starting to use my ailerons to try to straighten us out. Bingo. Thrust, 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 thrust. There's my rotation speed. And we're out of the water. Bingo. Climb, climb, climb. Gorgeous. This flies really well in the water. Now, let's go ahead and put the flaps up. And this flies still really, really well in the on the air. No problems. One thing you'll notice is I do have to change this in a lot of my autopilots. I will go in that autopilot spot for Alistair. In real life,
especially with a multi-engine aircraft like this, you don't need to kick the rudder. And you don't. I can fly with my feet flat on the floor. As I bank the plane, the upper wing is going to want to go faster than the lower wing. And because of that, if the upper wing wants to go faster than the lower wing, it's going to cause that wing to go forward of the downwind side, or the downwing side. And so that is actually how you turn. All right, you're just coordinating with the rudder. Now, what I do in game to simulate this, if we watch the rudder, as I bank, based on the tilt sensor, the angle of the tilt sensor, notice the rudder is automatically going in. That is simulating realistic aerodynamics. As you notice, we're not turning, though, because it's not enough. So we'll go in the autopilot, and I'll work on that next. So this system is working really well. So I'm happy with that. I think player damage is off, but... All right, good. So that's fixed. Let's go ahead and it's saved, but let's go ahead and we'll save one more time. All right, we'll go in the autopilot. Alistair had a question about explaining the. So essentially, this system makes it so that the plane will. So okay, so let's say you're going to turn. We'll bring up paint real quick. Yeah, I'll bring in the compass rose standby. Where is it? Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. Where's the compass rose? Compass rose, compass rose. I'll just search for it. All right. So here I have a compass rose. So here's north. So let's say you're flying your airplane, right? And you want to know, you want to turn. So you're flying your airplane, and you want to go to 020. So how do you make sure the plane turns right to 020 instead of going all the way around to 020? All right, so this is the logic for that. Alistair was asking for an explanation of that. So essentially what you're doing here is you have your compass in here. And so this is just changing your compass setting into degrees. That's it, right there. Change your compass off the physics sensor 2 degrees right there. Then what you're doing is you're coming in here, and so this is degrees. So let's look through it. So this right here is just a function, x minus y. All right. So let's say the example we had. So we're heading 360, right? Let's bring calculator up. Am I not on display cap anymore? I'm not on display cap. Okay, that's why. So here's the compass. Fuck me. Get up there, compass. Stop moving. All right, so we're heading 360. All right. And then if you look down here, it's x minus y. Y is, I have it off a numerical switch box just because I have it in from a number of different things. So I have desired heading, which is off of the keypad. I also have things like GPS, and I also have things like radio. That's why I have a bunch of numerical switch boxes going. It's so it has the different either radio bearing, GPS bearing, or the heading hold. So we'll just talk heading hold. So let's say we have our heading hold here, and I, again, like the example, I want to go 020. So it's going to take the current heading minus 020. So if we look there, it'll be 360 minus 020 equals 340. Okay. Next thing that's going to do is that's going to go into here. So it's going to say, hey, is 340 greater than 180? Yes. Is 340 less than negative 180? No. So because 340 is greater than 180, it's going to then go, I got to follow the tails here. I have to try to explain this the best I can here. So, all right, so then we have some other conditions here too. So let's talk about that. Yeah, let's go through this first. So again, 020. 020 minus, so 020 is the heading we want to go, minus 360, right? So 020 minus 360 equals negative 340, of course. And then we have 020 plus 360, right? So that's going to be 380, all right? So if the number right here, Let's see where we at. So I'm trying to explain this so it makes sense. So right here is, again, let's go back to this. So 340 here. So is 340 less than 180? No. So because 340 is not less than 180, it's going to go with this number here. All right, it's not going to flip this. So we're going with this number here. Let me see. Trying to remember here. So essentially, this is just the inversion, essentially. Trying to think of the best way to explain this. Struggling to explain this in a coherent way. Let me walk through it real quick. The numbers are helpful to keep in mind. So right here, so it's going to be 340. 340 is greater than 180. Yes, that's going right here. That's going to flip this number right here to the top. Okay. If it flips this number to the top, it's then going to read this one. All right. Now, if it's the other case here, let me see. This one here is confusing me. I'm trying to remember why I do this. It's been a while since I've changed this. I just copy it. That's the problem with copying it all the time. I don't know why I have this switch box. That's the problem. I might not need this switch box here. I think that's redundant. I think that's where I'm getting hung up here. All right, let's try it without this one and see what's up. All right, so 340. 340 is greater than 180. Okay, good. If that's the case, it's going to go... do we even need that shit? Stand by. I haven't played with this in a long time because I just copy it. And that's the problem with copying stuff, is you end up forgetting why you did things. Let's see. So the desired heading 020, that's going to come through here. Is we have 020 minus 360 is 340. The other one would be 380. If it is not there, so we have 380 going up to the top, 380 going in here. What the fuck is this? I think I have redundant shit in here. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Let me look at this later, and I'll screw with it. There, Alistair. I'm not doing a good job of explaining it. I've copied it 20 times. I'll try to figure it out and explain it at some point. You know, essentially, what you're trying to do is here. I'll probably rewrite the logic because I'm confusing myself with it. But here, let's go to a picture, and we can talk about it there. I'll talk about the theory. The theory will be more helpful. So essentially, what you want to do is this. Again, you're at 360. You want to go to 020. So you want to make sure the plane is turning to the right. And so you need to essentially figure out on the PID which way will make the PID go right, which way will make the PID go left. And so you needed to pick a direction. And so essentially what you're doing is you're subtracting the number off. And so essentially what you could do is say, hey, if we want to go right, so pretty much when you're doing your turn, let's say you're doing it with ailerons like I'm doing it. Let's say that positive aileron is to the right, negative aileron is to the left. You're trying to convert it so that the PID will either go left or right. Left is positive, right is negative. Okay, and so what you're doing is if the number is less than 360, for example, so if we take our current heading 360 and we subtract 020, it will be less than 360. Less is left. All right. If we take our current heading 360 and we add it and it's greater, it will turn right. And so essentially what you could be doing is that, where if it's greater, it's going to turn right and go to the heading. And then it's going to start us turning to the right because the aileron is positive. Once we exceed it, once we overrun, it flips and it will turn us back and it will oscillate and we'll stay there. Let's say we're at 330 and we add, we subtract 20. We're going to be at 310. That's negative. And then if we add it, it's going to be positive. It's going to go to the right. So I'm not explaining this for shit. For now, Alistair, until I can figure out a better way of explaining this, just use it. It works. It's been so long since I came up with that or worked with it. I learned it from other people as well, which was a smart way to do it. So I've tailored it to my own needs. But I'll go through it. It's a little bit of a confusing thing, but essentially all you're really doing is you're trying to determine which is the shortest direction. Is left shorter or is right shorter? It tells it to go in the shorter direction. Think of it that way. There's a bunch of ways you could do this. Essentially all you're doing is whatever the smaller number, go that direction. And then you have to consider the PID. It's either going to make you turn left or right. So once you figure out the PID will make me turn right with a positive number, you want to make it do that, would be a right turn. Negative number is a left turn. You can then say, okay, the shorter direction is to the right, turn right. The shorter direction is to the left, turn left. That's all you're doing, and it will start that way. All right, so yeah, it's confusing. It's hard for me to articulate it and make it, come up with examples. I'll try to think about it at some point and come up with better examples. But right now, it's kind of, I'm struggling to try to, explain it for shit, so we'll just take a break with it. Let's see. This is saved. All right, so we're working well in the water. We're working well in the land. What else do I need to do, then? I had thoughts of what I was going to work on next, and now I'm struggling to think of it. Let's see. Yeah, we're able to take off. We're able to land. No problem. All that's good. Let's play with a quick test. Got this saved again. Let's grab a grab a pallet. A heavy one at that. Yeah, it's hard to explain. I'm trying to think of the best way to do it. But essentially, all it's doing is it's saying, go to the direction that is shorter. That's all it's doing. And it's having you turn to whatever direction is shorter. That's it. Yeah, I can't. I'm not describing it for shit, so that's why it's difficult. Not doing a great job of explaining it. Let's see. There. Yeah, I can just delete it. All right, save that. Nope, stop. Back out. All right, save that. All right. It is very time-consuming to have to keep going in the add-on editor. I'll make a video asking in the builder request, in the feature request, for the devs to be like, hey, give us one base that has the same dimensions for the blue hangar for seaplanes, because that would be really helpful. And we just spawn the seaplane right in for testing. Because again, it doesn't make too much sense for the devs to do it if they don't, they might not think, why would we want this? And then you explain to them why I want this. I want this because I'm doing testing. It takes forever to have to use an add-on. It'd be so much more convenient. And for people who like to use seaplanes, it would be a cool base to have. And that's all valid, good ideas that is worth their time. If it's not worth their time, they have other things they could be spending that time on, So this is a pretty good bit of weight. Again, we talked about, this is about a ton. All right. You gonna tell me that's... Oh, I'm on the wrong one. I'm on this one. Okay. No wonder that one wasn't working. All right. All right, there we go. good. I kind of like this. This actually brings in the skill of the operator more than, say, just a crane. You know, you actually have to understand the mechanics of how the ropes work and how, you know, manipulating the length of the ropes can allow you to do things like tipping it. It just tipped over because I needed to lower these and I didn't. But that's pretty damn good for being able to, like you can see now with we're above the water line. We're good here. And I can load and unload stuff. Like, for example, I want to be able to put a raft in here and do rescues. So that would be cool. All right, good. So that's good proof of concept there. Let's go ahead and let's work on getting this panel system not to be a pain in the ass. I'm going to go take another coffee break. Yeah, sometimes I get the potato brain too, and you can't figure it out. But that's essentially what it's doing. It's saying, hey man, which is the shorter distance? And that's why you choose a direction. Now, sometimes, for example, air traffic control will tell you make a right turn to a heading because they're trying to buy time. You know, for example, like if you're in the pattern and they need to buy time, they'll be make a right turn to 050, and that might be the further direction. But what they're trying to do is buy more time. And so that might be why you do that right turn. Generally speaking, you go the shorter distance. So if it's 30 degrees, if you turn right, it would be 330 degrees to go left. And so you would want to make the right turn. And so, trust me, you know, people think that like real life autopilots are perfect, these perfect $1 million machines. They are $1 million machines, but they're not perfect. Like we used to have to, if we would sometimes put on approach, it would go left, right, left, right, left, right. It couldn't figure out what direction to go. And that's a multi-million-dollar system, and it's like, dude, go right. And so we would click it into heading hold, and we would spin it right, and as soon as the plane started turning right, we'd put back on approach, and it would now, because it's already going right, it would choose to go right, you know. Very often we were like, what the hell is the autopilot doing? That's why you have 2 qualified pilots in there. You know, is because the pilot knows theoretically why things are being done and can think critically. All right, I'm going to quickly go take another coffee break. I'll burb. Change the cover screen over. Alright, I am returned. How's it going there, Aiden? Hello, hello? Yeah. Every once in a while I get potato brain in this game, and it's best to move off of, like, logic. It's one of the reasons why, like, I stopped trying to explain that, is it's just like, I got potato brain right now, not gonna happen. So it's like, it's better to take a break and do something else. You know, especially when you're not in that mindset for logic, you gotta just do something else because it will help. Alright, let's get the controller built for this crane system. That was all my proof of concepting nonsense. So, let's see. What is the best method to do this? So, we have to do... Wowza. This is where it becomes problematic. I want to run all 4 of these. So, I think what we're going to do is a radio controller, and we will run 2 channels. One of the channels will be for the port side. One channel will be for the starboard side. And I need enough nodes. So essentially what I want to be able to do is, because I need to be able to twist the pallet, because I need to be able to extend one side and bring back the other one, what I think we'll do is I have WSAD up, down, left, right, essentially. I can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are a little bit more of a pain in the ass. Let me count them out. So if I do, so let's say WSAD up, down, left, right. So that's 4. And then I would need 8 more to do this side on one controller, and then I lose the central. So what I think I'm going to end up doing here is... Yeah, so what I think I'm going to end up doing here is we will do 2 channels. That way I can do up, down, left, right, WS, AD, and then I can do like 1, 2 maybe, or something like that on this one. And then all I have to do is quickly switch channels on the radio receiver, on the handheld radio, and then I'm doing the other one. And then I go through the channels and I do the other one. So I think that is going to be the best way to do this, to give me all the channels I need to do it effectively. So, yeah. I think that's the plan. Let's go ahead and actually do this. Cut you, move you down there. Cut you, move you down there. Okay. I really don't like those exposed pipe connections. All right, so that's what we'll do there. Let's go ahead and I just need to stick a radio in here somewhere. Doesn't matter. Let's stick it here. I kind of like the look of them too for just decorative purposes. So put a radio receiver right here. It can be small because we don't need much range. All right, good. That'll be like that. And then what I want to do is let's go ahead and we'll go zing. Put a keypad in. Again, we'll do this so that we can set the different freaks. All right. That will set the frequency for the left and the right. That way we can manually input them. All right, good. Let's work on the microcontroller. Door winches. All right. So let's start working on nodes. So we need to have radio composite. Stop. We'll run 2 of these, 1 for each side. We don't need this. That can go. We need 2 radios. That's fine. Or 2 antennas, rather. That's fine. So we don't need that. It's going to come directly off the keypad. Alright, so this is going to be output. This is Let's see. I need to name these. So this is going to be port. Outboard. Let's see. The whole thing's going to be port. So this is going to be outboard stern. Up. Cat's trying to like bump my hand while I'm doing this. I don't know if I fed him this morning. That's could be why he's being pissy. Outboard stern down. I bet that's what he's doing. Okay, let's do inboard stern up. Down. Output. All right. Then we have, so I have outboard stern, so I have all the sterns done. Okay. Outboard bow. It's usually nose tail, but kind of sticking with some nautical stuff. All right. I think I'm going to change it. Tail, 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 nose. All right. Okay. All right, so we have outboard nose and we need inboard nose. Inboard nose up. Down. I need another one too. All right, there we go. Those are good. All right. Quickly close the slider so that all the heat doesn't come in the house. But just stay with me. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's get this configured. So I was talking before, I'll show you guys again how to do it. Essentially turning the remote control into the ability to have reset 100%, essentially. So you'll be able to turn them into switches, kind of like how I do with seats. Again, you do the functionality, it's possible. So let's go. Radio composite. All right, so I want the outboards to be the W and up downs. So outboards will be those. So let's start just doing numbers here. I'm going to do all the axes. All right, there we go. Those are my 4 axes. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so now what we're going to do is we need to turn them into essentially reset 100% for switches. So where to make this happen, so we need greater thans and less thans. All right, so if, go through, just move those. All right, so if 1 is greater than 0, and then what we want to do is the delta. If that is greater than 0, we can do ands or booleans. I'm just going to do ands. That will be up. All right, good. Let's just do less thans. I don't want to... I don't need to just invert it. We'll just do this. All right, so the reason this works again is in the remote control, it's always reset, and you can't change the sensitivity like you can on the seat. So when I go ahead and I press the in this case, this is AD anyway. It's AD. I'm going to change it to WS. So this is WS. So when I press W, the number will go greater than 0. The delta is the rate of change. So when I'm pressing the W key, the rate of change will also be positive. So we'll have positive, positive. We'll have both of them positive, so we'll go up. As soon as I let go of the button, it's going to take time for this to return. This is going to be slow. So this will stay clicked. But the delta will instantly go negative. So this will no longer fulfill the criteria required for this to be triggered because this one is no longer working. So what's going to happen is when I press the W key, it will go up. When I let go of the W key, it will then make this condition no longer work and it will stop. So I can click W, winch will go up, let go, winch will stop. Okay? That's the point of that. Now I could change it into toggles if I wanted. I'm going to keep them as pushes. But you could make them toggles. To make them toggles is very simple. You would then put in an up-down counter. If it's positive, it will click it up. If I go negative, it will click it down. All right, pretty simple. Same thing here. If I push the S key, that's going to be less than 0. It's going to fulfill this criteria. Because I'm pushing the S key, the delta is also less than 0. That's going to fulfill both conditions, and we're going to go down. As soon as I let go, this condition will still be fulfilled, but this one will not be fulfilled, and it will stop it when I want it to stop. So that gives it responsiveness. All right. So that's how you turn that into essentially what we use on the seat all the time. You're just doing it with that. All right, so that is going to be the outboards, and then we want to make this one here. What is up, down is 3. So I'm going to go to 3 here. Greater than delta, less than delta. Okay, good. And then this one is going to be the other outboards. So let's see, we have outboard tail, outboard nose right there. See ya. See ya. All right. Bingo. All right, then we want to do left, right is going to be tail. That's tail. Left, right is going to be tail. Right there. Up and down. And we want nose. There we go. All right, so that's going to be AD is going to be tail. AD is 1. That's going to get plugged to there, to there, to there, and to there. Beautiful. All right. And then this one here is going to be the final, which is 4. There, 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 and there. Gorgeous, lovely, lovely, lovely. All right, that does that. Now the center, what we're going to do is I'm just going to do them as pushes again. So this turns them into pushes, essentially, instead of... so we're going to go Control-CV, do one more here. Actually, that's not what I want to do. Let's see. So I need to turn them to toggles to pushes, so... Let's see. Pulse toggle to push. And we will read on-offs. That'll be 1. That'll be 2. Go into the pulse. All right, and then the center one will run off these. Clean the lines up, more good. All right, so that's, in this case, the port side. Move the whole thing so it's clean with the spawn. There we go. And we will... There we go. All right, so now let's start plumbing. So that's going to go port side. That will go starboard side there. Let's start plumbing, plumbing, plumbing. That's going to be center down, center up. So that's inboard nose is going to be, what was that? Inboard nose down, inboard nose up, outboard nose down, outboard nose up. That's outboard. Oh shit, I did them wrong. That's supposed to be outboard there. I've got them backwards because the door's closed. They changed direction. Shit. Outboard nose down. Where's outboard nose up? Outboard nose up. Okay, that's fixed. Inboard. What's my god? Where's nose? Inboard nose up. Inboard nose down. There we go. All right, that's fixed now. All right, this is going to be outboard tail. Outboard tail up. Okay, good. Inboard tail up. And inboard tail down. All right, that fixes that. This goes directly into the antenna so that we can independently run the freaks. Show me where the freaks at. All right, good. This one's going to be outboard tail up, outboard tail down, inboard tail up, inboard tail down. That's outboard nose up, outboard nose down, inboard nose up. That's center up, center down. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to quickly, let's do this. All right, let's go ahead and spawn it and we'll run it. All right, so let's set this on frequency 1. This will be freak 2. Show me where the freak's at. All right, good. Should not have done that when I did it. All right. It'll be a pain in the ass to get it tipped back up if I can. All right, let's see if I can get this. I got to push it and see if I can get it picked up. All right, so good practice anyways. All right, channel 1 is this side. So we're looking for, let's see, outboard tail. My God, if I can remember them, we'll be in good shape. That's the right one. It's not going to want to flip very easily. Let's do this. Likely what I'll do is I might put some higher rope anchors on them. You know, I should be detaching. The problem is the ropes had tension on them. So, like, as long as I detach it first, we're good. It just swung around and had too much momentum. All right, so let's set the freaks. So we want channel 1, channel 2. All right, channel 1. So in order to make this both go up, I'm going to do both arrows up, both arrows up, W and up. Why is that not going? Question. Because I screwed it up. Alright. That'd be why. Oh, crap. I gotta fix this. Hopefully it's not a logic thing. Let's see. So this one here should be outboard. Outboard nose down, outboard nose up. Okay. Just, it's likely just frequencies are screwed up. Or channels, rather. Let's see. So 2 is WS. That's going to be outboard tail. And then we want outboard nose. I want to be 4. This is 3. Okay. That fixes it. All right. That's it. And then the other one needs it as well. It's just I mislabeled them. All right, that will fix that. So they're on the correct, they work correctly. Okay. Brakes are off, released, door, door. Push, 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 push. All right, let's go ahead and I already did the channels. Why is that backwards? This one, I did both of them as 2. 1. All right, channel 1. So W and up arrow. There we go. Now I want to let go of the other side to pull it this way. Now we can go. So now I have much more control of this. All right, good. So now all I have to do is click R. All right, click, and then I want to go up on those 2. Now we're in the air. Okay, good. Let's go ahead and click R. The problem is I got to go around, but it's not the end of the world. Get that moving to the left there. All right, good. Now we want to swing it out, so click R, click, down. All right, good. So that's working fine. What I need to then do is I need to work on the sliders, so let's do that. All right, let's catch up with chat here. Hello, Fiat. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, good. So let's go ahead and put that in there. So currently, let's see. Let's go in here. I got to increase these again. So that's number output. This will be linear track. Let's see. 5 and 6 probably. Yeah, I think 5 and 6 is the ticket here. Now, we might have a problem with braking force on these, so I could keep an eye on that, but... I have to go feed the cat here in a second. He is already back. It's like, I bugged you for a bit. I thought you were going to feed me. I'm going to try to pretend to drink your coffee now so that you come and feed me. I'm not the one who chose to go outside instead of eating. Alright, let's spawn this, and I'm gonna go run this cat, get this cat his business, and I'll be right back. Alright, Operation Feed the Cat is complete. Alright, so test out the linear tracks here. See how the behavior is on that. The thing is, they don't have much braking force on these small linear tracks. The larger one does. Not that it's a huge deal, but keep that in mind. So if it does become a problem, we need to keep power to it. It's not a huge deal, but something we do have to consider. All right, let's go to channel 1. All right, let's go ahead and I'm gonna press 5, and it goes out. Okay. All right, that shuts it off. So yeah, this will hold it, so that's helpful. All right, good. Let's get this unloaded successfully. All right, so see how it's leaning towards the left, so we want to go W and lift that side up. This is the benefit of using these cables. You can really do some like interesting stuff with them to get them where you need to be. Okay, that is not doing what I want. All right, there we go. All right, there we go. So let's put some slack in. So we can essentially preset the ropes. So notice I'm putting a bunch of slack in the ropes. I want to get them the same length, approximately. So right there, they're pre-slacked. Now we can switch over to channel 1 again. See, it's going to do this stupid shit, which I got to work on. I'm going to have to switch it to up-down counters because it's going to do that. It's going to try to move it every time I switch the controller, which is annoying. Alright, so there we go. Alright, now I'm going to switch it again. This is probably going to do that annoying shit again when I switch to channel 2. See? Alright. There we go. Put some more slack in there. Alright, put a bunch of slack in. Lots of slack, lots of slack, lots of slack. Alright. This is one of the problems with this not being as configurable as the seat. I have to do in the micro, which isn't a huge deal. But alright, there we go. And now I want to get out of the controller, and I'm going to grab ropes. And we'll attach to there. We'll attach to there. Now what I want to do is, I screwed this up last time, so we won't screw it up this time. Let's go down on this side. We need to get it angled, and then up on the back. Up, down. And okay, fucking hell. And then what is it, left or right? It's right, I believe. Yep, right to bring up the back. There we go. And I can see I can do both now, which is helpful. There we go. All right, so now I want to go left and down on both. So it'll be AS, down, left. There we go. So this gives me much better controllability. I can really do what I want. Now, like, the left side needs it more, so I'm just going to let go of the right side for a second. Now it's opposite. There we go. And I can really, like, I can tip it. I can do everything I need to do really effectively. Let's get a pic real quick of this. But yeah, that's kind of cool that we can do this. And really, with the ropes, we get a lot of really good controllability with it. So now we want to go, AS and down left. If I click the button first. Good, so that's a pretty reliable way to get pallets in and out of this bad John. Alright, very good. Alright, let's look at some chat here. I'll see you later, Rasmus. Thanks for hanging out. No, definitely not. I prefer manual things. I have no desire to do that. What's my job? To sit and look there? I don't like management. I don't want to be management. I want to be doing the job. Yep. Manual or bust. All right, let's put it back in. So W, D, and up right. So this gives me like really good controllability. Oh, it starts to tip. I can tip it the other way. As you can see, really simple, easy to tip it. Fix it where I need to. Like if it was tipping, forward back, I could easily fix that. Like it is tipping forward back now, so what I need to do is... Up. Game freezing? Game's freezing up. Stand by. Oh, I haven't had a crash in a while. Let's give it a second. So first thing I always do when I'm going to crash is I quickly open up the process manager. Task manager. My CPU spiked. All right. So, again, you see people, they constantly blame the game for things. Sometimes, absolutely, it's 100% of the game. Other times, it's PC. I just opened it up, and we were at 78% when I got it open. And it's now went down as low as 30 and 50. So, likely what happened is the CPU spiked out. Now, it could be a game thing that caused the CPU to spike out. But, again, you'll see people constantly just blame it on the game. Sometimes your PC, man. Let me see. Can I get a CPU temp, too? I'm interested in that. I want to check it before I go right back to running the way we're running. It doesn't... See, unfortunately, it doesn't have temperature right here. See here I find CPU temp. Might have to reboot the game anyway. brought up Microsoft Edge. Piss off, Microsoft Edge. Yeah, I don't have the quick program to do it. All right, let's reboot the game. So it could have been something that the game did that caused the CPU to spike, or it could be that the CPU spiked and that closed the game. You know, a lot of this, again, it's complex problems have complex solutions, and it's, you know, you see people just quickly blame them. Stormworks always crashing. Well, is it that your PC cannot handle Stormworks running at the settings you have, and therefore it always crashes? Like, you know, the room is hot, but it's not that hot. I had an issue before where Tarkov was always crashing. Why was Tarkov always crashing? Because my water cooler was broken. And so my CPU was overheating. So what did I do? I looked at Process Manager. Oh my God, my CPU is constantly overheating. And so that's not a Tarkov problem. That is a hardware problem. So sometimes it absolutely 100% is the game. Other times it is not. And it's, you know, just blaming things without knowing why it's causing something is problematic. So we should be able to put quite a bit more fuel in this plane too, which I'd like to. And the thing is, if you remember, when I put in the fuel tanks, they're all wedges. If you put in the microcontrollers where the wedges are, it frees up a lot of fuel space. So all these micros are going to end up going into the wings. And that is going to greatly improve or greatly increase the fuel capacity. So again, like I said, that could be either way, whether it was PC issue or whether it was game on that one. 9 blocks. I think we're right at 9 on this. You know, so it's one of those things that, you know, again, if you actually want to solve a problem, like, you need to find out what caused the problem. And sometimes it's the game, 100%. Sometimes not. All right, let's do a little painty poo in here. Might do it the other way, I think. I don't like that. Yeah, so part of that whole thing. It's like you really got to find out what is causing the issues, and that's, you know, just constantly blaming stuff that's not the problem will just lead you to, you know, not finding the solutions to some of your problems. You got to kind of, you know, proper attribution is important to be able to actually, fuck, I didn't have symmetry on the kits, drove me nuts. To actually figure out, like, how to fix your issues, but you drive me nuts. You drive me nuts, sir. Need to snuggle him for a second so he give me a little break. That should be there, that be there. Okay, good. There we go. All right. Yeah, but I generally prefer doing this manually. Like, what's the point if I'm gonna have the machine do all the work for me? Why am I even there? Might as well just push a button and let it go do its thing. You know, like it's you know, there's a lot to be said for skilled operators. It takes a lot of years to become a good operator. You know, and that's there's a lot of, you know, it's rewarding. That's like, you know, poll after poll, they ask, like, what are some of the most rewarding jobs? And they tend to be machinery operators, because you instantly get that sense of gratification of, like, oh, you know, I was able to maneuver well. I was able to do this well. And it's all your skill that did it. And that's what is rewarding. Like, having a machine just do it for you is frickin' boring. It really is. It's like, why are you even there if the machine's going to do the work for you, you know? Yeah, it's pretty damn boring when the machine just does it all for you. Yeah, you're a spectator instead of being the actual operator at that point. All right, start moving some micros into the wings. Let's see, what else do we... Okay, that's fine. Let's move that. So the devs talked about it yesterday in the update that they fixed the disconnecting nodes and it was caused by undo redo. So that was interesting to find out what was causing it. It was undo redo, it appears, that was causing the issue. Oh, shit. Come on, come on, come on. Pick up, you fucker. There we go. Now, ideally, we want the... Nah, I'm going to do it out here. Ideally, we would probably want this to be closer to the CG, just because, you know, you want your wingtips to be lighter. The game, again, we don't have to worry about as much. All right, so like the tanks were pretty much identical. So like adding those micros to the wings, see where it gets us. Difference is about 300 pounds of fuel. So that adds 300 pounds of fuel onto that that left wing. Yeah, just I find the whole over automation just so terribly boring. What is GSP? I don't know what GSP is. What the hell is it? Oh, ground service panel. Okay. Ground service panel. That makes sense. I don't have a ground service panel on here. Maybe we'll add it, maybe we won't, but update it. Come on. We'll figure it out later. Let's see what else we need that we don't need. Blank, blank. I hate doing when I do that. Let's get rid of symmetry. Let's get rid of superfluous bullshit. What are you? Door. Door. Okay, those all go. What is this? Those blanks? No, artificial horizon, physics sensor. Heater. Okay. De-icing. Lights. RGB dimmer panel. All right. Stop. Cut that. You know, it's like, for example, like with my cargo VTOL, I don't want to have a button that transitions me from forward flight to vertical flight. That's the job of the pilot. And so I'm giving my work away, and I find that very boring. As a pilot, I'm a hell of a lot smarter than the machine. You know, like, the engineer programs it to what they think, you know, you need. They're not the pilot, and that's why half the time the pilots end up shutting off the automated systems, because the automated system does something silly. The machine is as good as its programming, and if it's not programmed correctly, it's going to be like, oh, I don't know what to do next, boss. And you get to go in there, and as the professional, you can then take over and make it work correctly. And it doesn't, like, it has no understanding of the consequences of if something gets screwed up. You know, you as the pilot are going to die if it crashes you into something. So you actively work to make sure that doesn't happen. The computer doesn't really care, you know. It's doing what it's programmed. If it's programmed to fly into a mountain, it's going to fly into a mountain. And that's why you're glad the pilot's there, is the pilot does not want to fly into the mountain, hopefully. And so, you know, the pilot will take care to not do that. You know, and frankly, you can't, like, one of the reasons why you want the machine, why, like, for example, in the winches, why I wouldn't want them automated is, you know, there's a number of factors. Like, when I attach the ropes are not going to be exactly at the same distances. So, for example, like, let's say I bring my mini truck, and my mini truck is 1% crooked. Well, one rope is going to be longer than the next rope, is going to be longer than the next rope, is going to be longer than the next rope. So if I can independently control all of my winches, I then am able to fix that rotation. If it's an automated system, I can't fix my rotation. It's they move together, and so it's an automated system. So the automated system is going to pick it up crooked. And so if I don't want it crooked, I can manually manipulate it and I can fix and rotate it. It has no clue how to do that. You would have to put sensors all over it so that it knows the rotation of the thing. And it's why, oftentimes it's much easier just to have a human operator do it. That's one of the unintended consequences with a lot of this automation shit that's going to really, end up causing problems that's going to have to be worked out is, for example, I had a manager one time tell me to take an illegal trailer somewhere. And I told him, put it in writing and I'll consider it, which I was never going to do it. But they knew what that meant. They knew that because I was asking for it in writing, they were in the wrong. And of course they didn't have me do it at that point because it was illegal to take that trailer. It didn't have a registration. It didn't have a license plate. And it wasn't inspected. And so it was a very illegal trailer. And I said, I was saying no effectively because I wasn't going to take it no matter what. But I told them, put it right and I'll take it. And the whole point of saying that to them was, you put your career on the line for me to take this instead of me putting my career on the line to take this. And they quickly understood what that meant. And then they ended up having a contractor take it, which, again, still illegal, but it wasn't me doing it, at that point. It was a contractor doing it. And so the contractor should have said no, but they're a contractor, and they really don't have that ability to easily say no. Or they could put it on a tow truck, and that's in a gray area to have a tow truck take it, but that's what they ended up probably doing. So you can get management to put, people's lives at risk quite easily because they're doing stupid shit. And you need people with integrity who can go in there and not do that. And that's why it's important, for safety reasons, to have professionals who will say, no, I'm not taking that. That's one of the reasons why we have a licensure system for so many things is, if you're a nurse, you have to have a license. So if you do something as a nurse that's dangerous, that can hurt people, you'll lose your license. And so you don't want to do it. If you are a doctor, same deal. Pilot, same deal. Truck driver, same deal. Is you have a license, you don't want to lose your license. That one job is not worth your license because then you can never work in that field again. And so you say no. And it's an important thing for safety to have that licensure, End effector pushes a button for you. Yeah. All right, so let's see. So a lot of that stuff is it's super important for safety. It's one of the elements of automation that is yet to be really tackled properly. It's like self-driving cars, a big one thing in tech, too, I find is they do very rosy predictions. Oh, next year we're going to have flying cars. Or next year we're going to have fully automated cars. No, we're not. Even if you could get the tech to work perfectly, you then have to work on laws and all the governing bodies to agree on how to do this. And you need the EU to agree with the US and to agree with Asia. And it becomes a big issue where, can they all agree on this? And then, you have ancillary costs to that. Who is responsible when an automated car crashes into people? It's very easy when a driver's doing it. Is it negligent? Is it manslaughter? Is it homicide? What are the different factors in this? When you start getting into automation, there's disclaimers in, for example, Teslas, where it's essentially no matter what, it's your fault. That's essentially what it's saying is no matter what happens, it's your fault that the car crashed. And so, do you want to relinquish your control of the car when you're going to get blamed anyway? So for example, it's say somebody else was driving, but it's always going to be your fault. Well, are you going to relinquish control of the car if it's going to be your fault for a crash? And the answer is probably no. I don't want to give up my control if I'm going to be responsible. I actually want to be in control if I'm going to be responsible. And that's essentially what's happening with a lot of these automated cars and whatnots, is you are essentially relinquishing control, but you're still responsible in the event of a crash. You know, who wants to take responsibility for that if the car causes you to crash? Like, that's bullshit, right? You don't want to take responsibility. If the car causes you to crash, you want it to take responsibility, you know? And it's not going to. You know, it's like when they talk about, oh, we're going to be replaced by automated, you know, truck drivers are going to be replaced by automated trucks. A big part of that is, you know, how often does something break down? Like, so many times I've had systems break down. We had them in million-dollar airplanes where, you know, for example, we've flown flights where the autopilot is broken. And so what do? We just fly the airplane. We know how to fly the airplane, we fly the airplane. Not a big deal. But if you get in a situation where, for example, the autopilot is broken on a self-flying airplane, well, guess what? The plane's not going anywhere, they have to cancel. Where normally they could just have the pilots fly it. We've had situations where, you know, the APU is an op. What do? We follow the APU and op procedures, no problem, keep moving, you know? And so that's a big issue that ends up coming up where, you know, you end up having to cancel flights that you normally would be able to run because the system is not working. The windshield is overly large in this, but I'm kind of keeping it large. This here I want to fix. What is here? Anything here that I have to worry about? Not really. Oh, come on. If I could put symmetry on in time for when I need it, we'd be in great shape. Oh, that's why I did that. Alright, never mind. I did it so I wouldn't have to put an extra block in there. That's why it's up one. It's fine. Alright, so this is coming along really nicely. It's floating well. It's sitting in the water really well. Again, I would love them to fix that diamond. You know, you see this argument all the time, and I get it again. It makes sense, but again, I don't necessarily always agree with it, or rarely agree with it, frankly. Is people like, oh, we've been asking forever for X, Y, and Z. Yes, but again, you know, you're not the personal, it's not your personal game. You know, you're not weighing what other people want, and then, again, at the end of the day, it's the developer's game. They get to put in what they want. And it's like anything designed by committee. Oftentimes, something designed by committee is a mess. You know, so sometimes it's not great to just have, like, everybody's voice listened to anyway. You need to have a central vision. You know, you don't want to put fads and things and stuff, and it's like, yeah, I would, like, it's very high on my priority list. Like, for example, I personally wouldn't care if they didn't touch online multiplayer at all. I don't give a shit about online multiplayer. We do some multiplayer hosted on my PC, which is fine. I wouldn't care if they ever do anything in service of online multiplayer ever again, personally. Now, I think it's good for the game. I think it helps fund the game. That's why I think they should do it. But personally, I don't give a shit. And that's not a good thing for the game in general, you know? And so, for the game in general, it's best that that gets worked on. For me personally, I couldn't care less. And so, at the end of the day, the devs have to think about what is best in service to the game in totality. And so, working on multiplayer is best for the game in totality. Frankly, again, like I said, I don't care. I don't need or want, you know, most of that online multiplayer stuff doesn't matter to me. And so it's, you know, some of that stuff needs to be done in service of the game. And so it's like when people are like, oh, well, you know, there are these long-standing problems that we've been talking about for years. Yes, your group of people, that is important too. And so, yes, for you, that is incredibly important. But for other people, they could not give a shit about that thing. And so you have to, the developer has to worry about all the disparate groups, you know, the individual player does not. And so it's like why some of these things that have been around or been asked for forever, you know, are important to you, but they might not be important to the general player base, and they might not be important to the devs over other things, you know. And that's where I think some of those people miss the cue there. That's why certain things don't get worked on. It's not that the devs aren't listening or they don't give a shit. It's they have other priorities, you know, and so they're going to do other things, you know. There are other things that might be more important to them than what you particularly want, you know. I think let's not facade down here. I want to kind of make this living quarters down here. Let's start just painting up. That will help. This gray paint seems way too dark for me, but we'll figure something out. May do like a green in there. You know, it's like for me, one of the top things I would like to see them do is that diamond. Like, you know, I started talking about it, then I got sidetracked, but like that diamond for me is more important than anything to do with online multiplayer, but there's a large part of the player base who would certainly prefer the other thing. You know, I could not give a shit if boats even really sank. Like, it's nice that they do. I like having to work with the buoyancy, but the sinking in general, I don't give a shit about. For a lot of people, that's the only reason they play, you know? You know, there's another nice thing here is like the ability to use the rocket negative mass. Like for this here, this is all jaggedy. So I'm going to add blocks in some of this area to kind of clean up the wall. Maybe I might just cut it in the middle here and put the living quarters in the front. But, you know, that's going to add a bunch of mass. So you're going to get to the point where you just cannot get the game to work the way you want, where you're not able to, you're adding a ton of mass and then it won't float properly. So having tools like that rocket mass is nice because I can add all this, like I'm adding weight to this now. So it's going to sit lower in the water. I can just go in and edit that rocket as I add it, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. You know, so it's nice on that level to be able to do that. Yeah, that's like some people have like this conspiratorial mindset where they're like, oh, if you mention that, the devs are going to get rid of it. It's like, no, they're not. You know, don't show how to do the rocket glitch. They'll patch it out. And it's like, they're not going to patch it out. You know, not maliciously on purpose, like, oh, they found a way around something. It's like, if something is really out of balance, for example, like some of the infinity generators, like, could they patch it out? Yeah, but is it likely? Probably not, because they're like, yeah, if you want to play realistically and use flywheels for what they're supposed to be on, you can. And if you want to make a glitchy flywheel system that gives you infinite electricity, you can make some cool space shit, and you can make some cool fantasy stuff. And you know, it's this conspiracy theory that some of the player base have that it's like, oh, the devs are just trying to shit on your phone. It's like, dude, they're not trying to do that. It's they have some goals. Sometimes they end up, you know, changing the way glitches work, and it's not to be malicious dickheads. It's because they're trying to achieve other goals, and it ended up doing that, you know. Like, there's been some good feedback on how people, a lot of people do not like the changes to the day-night cycle, and I agree. I think it's nice to be able to set a different day-night cycle, you know. And so the best thing to do is be like, hey, you know, we know why you probably changed the day-night cycle, but these are the drawbacks from you guys doing that. Is we can no longer have a controlled day-night cycle. Could you guys, you know, consider putting it back? You know, like, that's a message I certainly agree with. Is I think that the ability to control the day-night cycle is good. Let us have that back, you know. And they might think, oh, well, you know, we didn't think about that. You know, okay, we'll put it back. And they've done that before. Like, people have said, like, hey, you know, you changed this, and now I can't do this, 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 and this before. And they say, oh, I didn't think of that, you know. And it happens. You know, but going on there and being a dickhead about it really, like, why, you know, am I gonna just listen to some abusive dickhead? You know, you don't have to kiss ass. People think that you gotta kiss ass to these. You don't. Just X, Y, and Z. This is why I think it was better the way before, if you guys can consider going back to the way before. That's it. Doesn't have to be an ass kissy fest. It just explain to them why you want the thing, why you think it was better the way it was, you know, and they can make a determination. Like, you got a lot of people who are like, you know, go back to before the pressurization update. Get rid of the pressurization. Nobody wanted this. Well, first of all, again, that's hyperbole. I want it. I've made some cool things with pressurization. It's not that hard to learn it, and that's likely why they don't just go and change it. Like, it's a no-brainer to go back before pressure. No, it isn't. You know, it's not a no-brainer to go back before pressure. It's minor changes. It really isn't that challenging to learn. That's why they don't just go back and bring it to before pressure, is because it doesn't make any sense to do that. It was an added feature, requested feature. It's got a lot of cool things you can do. You know, that's why they don't do it. All right, what are you color-wise? Let's go 85 on these. Let's see what this looks like here. What the oh, I went darker instead of lighter. That's why. Let's go 50s. I would color swap. Oh, Jesus Christ. I did the exact thing I didn't want to do. I don't know what else I have this color as, so I'm just gonna do it by hand. Won't take long. Too much of a dungeon in here. Ah, screw it. Color swap it. I'll fix it if I need to later. It'll take me thinking of other issues I'd have. So let's go ahead and check it. I fix the nose gear. Yeah, that's too bright now. What? The floor was that color. Shit. What the fuck is this now? Give me this color. Oh, swapped it all up. Yes. That was it there. Alright. I'll fix it later. Let's work on this nose wheel. Alright, there we go. Alright, I gotta put in... I don't think I have any gear controller in here. I gotta fix that. Still have to work on the gear a little bit. Not bad, but it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. What is this blank? Taxi light. That's it. Come on. Oh my god. Just type properly, please. There we go. All right. I'll work on the de-icing, make sure that's all plugged in. I don't have a heater in there yet. That's all that. Where's the hell's my gear? Where is it? It's over here. Is it here? No. Where the hell's gear? That's variable brake. That's why. Right here. Okay. Right here. All right. Gear. All right. Save this. So go grab the gear off Albatross for the front, at least. Minimum temperature prevent the cold status effect? No, I don't know. No idea. I'm going to redo a bunch of this logic on the mains. Is currently they're just timed mostly, and I don't like a timed system. I much prefer a based on where it is in the cycle. So we'll work on that while we're here as well. So by using the large pivot's position, and then you using the large pivot's position, and then the other one will move, so that makes sure it never fouls up. Because sometimes, like if you're pulling G's and you try to, what the hell is this? If you're pulling G's and then you try to retract the gear, if it's based on timing, they'll move slower because the G-force are working against it, and then you end up with a situation where it, where they're out of alignment, and then you get stuck. So, based off the pivot position, if the wheel is in this position, doors should be either open or closed, so it makes it much simpler. All right, that is all that. Let's see, where's the main? Pivots right there. Okay, pivots can go to... I'm going to rewrite a bunch of this. Let's not take a hacksaw to it yet. Alright, so that will go all to pivots. That's fine. Okay. Let's start plugging this in here. That'll help. Nose doors, alright. Main port pivots. Pivots. I'll go to the main pivots on all of them. There we go. All right, good. This is going to be nose gear position right here. Pick one. So we do the current rotation. Again, the doors can't hit it if it knows where it is. And so if it would be like you're putting your hand through a door, you'd say, oh, don't close the door, my hand's in there. And then as soon as your hand's clear, you say, okay, close the door. You know, it's essentially what's going on. Main port. So we want to have the position of that, position of this, and then I just need to use the numbers off the other one to fix it. Where are we at here? Starboard main. AGL is just the distance sensor of height above ground. These are inlet turbine temperatures. We'll do that later. Uplock release. I don't have uplocks on the mains. I have an uplock on this one. So that's the... Is that uplock? Let me look. I can't see for shit. That's downlock. I do not have an uplock on this one. Sometimes I put uplock, sometimes I don't. This one does not have an uplock. This one just has a downlock. Downlock release is right here. Downlocks there and there. You have up and down locks on most airplanes. Main starboard front, that's the doors. We don't have doors on that. Don't have up locks. All right, so now I gotta go in there and program these up. So let's see. Spawn it and check the positions. I'll put I think it's going positive. All right, let's see. Phenomena. So essentially, anytime this is in transition, so when this is neither down nor up, we want this gear to kick out. And then when it is either close to being up or close to being down, then we want it to kick back in. So that's essentially what I'm doing here. We'll give it a little color, I think. Oh, fuck yo. Goddamn color swap bullshit. There we go. I don't like that color, but we'll figure something out here. Nope. There's very extreme color differential on that. Something. All right. I don't know what the up position is. Let's go ahead and put some jack stands on this. I got to change it so that I can have my squat switch on there. All right, so we'll add the squat switch to here. So if AGL is above 10 meters, we also want to put W, and then we'll do a property toggle. So here's a property toggle, and this here is going to be the squat switch override off on. Okay, good. So if I select this, then I can, I don't have to disconnect this to be able to swing the gear on the ground. They have those IRL. You can override the squat switches. And so we'll just click on this, and then we'll override the squat switch. And then I should be able to fold them. I didn't plug it in, so that's why we're doing nothing here. Jesus Christ, flicky camera, could you not? You come here, please. That's helpful. That would be why. Alright, so see it's in the up position now, so the nose wheel is fine. This is now in its up position. Alright, that's still on timing. Let's see, rotation target, so it's at 0.25. Okay, and then down should be 0. Alright. So what we want to do is the transitioning period on this for the mains. And what I'll do is I'll just run these doors here to that number. And so let's see. Check this gear. Let's see where that goes out to. 7.5. Okay. Negative 7.5. All right. So for here, we want to go. All right, so right here, if the main is, so we want the transition area, so from, let's say 0.1 to 0.24, that's when we want that gear to be open. Okay. And then, so it's going to be either 0 or negative 7.5. So standard is going to be 0. Which I can just get rid of them then. And then the open position is going to be negative 0.75. All right, there we go. Get rid of those clamps, it's fine. All right, let's go to main port angle. Okay. So then we'll switch the FT was the doors, it was front door. So the angle now comes in for this pivot here. And so now as it turns, it's going to do that. All right, so see, it did not move fast enough. Still worked, but it's not moving fast enough. So like one thing we can do is increase the speed on these pivots, or we can slow the speed on this. So like on this, let's go to, we'll do both. Let's do 0.5. We don't want to slow the main pivot too much because that's for strength for folding up. And so we'll drop that, and then let's increase this to 2. I don't want it to be goofy where it's like super duper fast because that looks gross. But we don't want it to get jammed up either. So now it's going to rotate slower, and it's going to it's going to rotate them the other direction faster. All right, the problem is that's slammed in there, so we don't want that. Okay. All right, so let's screw with that again. Let's keep that as 0.5's fine. This, let's not. That hit so hard that it slammed it and it caused potential damage. Let's not do that. Okay, again, if the devs would give us a composite node for this, I'd then be able to read the position of this, and that would be great, because essentially this would not rotate forward until this was rotated out. And we do it the other way as a condition, but I can't read the position of the small pivot, so that's the issue there. Let's see. I can add some other conditions here. Let us see. Okay, let's go in here. I'm going to change these to properties. Nah, it's thresholds. I'm not going to screw them. So instead of 0.1, let's go 0.05. So that will trigger it to turn earlier. So when those start to go forward just a little bit, they will go ahead and go out. All right, so still getting hung up. This should be all right because the hard point's going to lock it, so I don't think that's going to have any issues really doing that. There we go. That looks better. All right, now you see it didn't slam itself shut. Oh, come on. The difference between having the different shift and control in the editors and running around the pain in the balls, it really is. See, that's getting jammed up. So that is, we're like 0.01 off, so let's do that. So this will be, oh, I don't know, 9. Let's do that. You then have to test in flight too, because again, G-force is going to cause them to sag a little bit, as they would in real life, and then you have issues where you got to account for the sag, just like in real life. Account for sag. All right, so see how that won't go in? That's because it's too close. So it's, you know, if we could read the current rotation into multiple decimal places, it's probably too close. Oh, I put 0.29. I meant 4. That's why. I meant 4.9. That's why I did that. Okay, let's see. Should be 4.9. That would be why. And we don't need up blocks, so just extra nonsense to put in up blocks if I don't need them. There we go. All right. Now, say I was pulling positive G's, that might force the pivot down enough to try to send the legs out. You know, that would be when I might want to put in up blocks, but I don't want to cut into my hull too much. Well, that looks pretty good. Okay, so that didn't come out soon enough. Getting hung up. It doesn't have much play on there. I could put a couple things in here. Let's look at it real quick. These pyramids have smaller collisions, so if you have collision problems, you can try to go to pyramids and see what happens there. Let's see. No. Let's run that, see what happens. Just don't want to get hung up. Oh, I'm so annoyed with that. Just it's obnoxious at the different key. Sprint should be sprint. Slow walk should be slow walk. Doesn't matter where you are. Just make it all the same. All right. There we go. All right. That has a smaller collision because of, you know, those pyramids barely have any collision. So I don't think it negatively affects the look at all. And it works better. So again, not going to function. Don't like it. Must function. Must function. All right, good. That works pretty well. I like that. Yep, thank it. Thank it. Yeah, that's how the Shinmaiwa US2 does its gear. Let's see if I can find it. That's how its gear does. Let me see if I can get the picture up. You see, mine goes forward. This one, you can see that's how the gear goes in. It's the same thing. It rotates out. Often what they'll do is they'll put like a ramp or they'll have a rod in a channel. And so you'd have a rod going from a channel to the gear. And so as it pulls up, the rod follows the channel and it would push the gear out. And then as it gets higher in the channel, it would slide it back in. So you have something like that sometimes. I don't know if that's how it works but on this one. But, you know, that's how it works on this plane here. Pretty cool. It has working de-icing. It essentially, what do I do on here? So the way, I don't know if I still have it working this way, but the way I used to have this work is, so I have a rain sensor. If the temperature is below freezing and it senses rain, it will tell me there's icing. If I turn on de-icing, it will simulate turning on the boots. If I ice up, it will then do anti-flap, so I lose lift. So that's how I normally have it up. I think it's set up. Let me check. It's set up. I don't know if I have it completely going. Let me look. I think there's my outside air temperature. Let's check real quick. There's my OAT. All right, here's de-icing right here. So there's anti-ice, which prevents ice, and then de-icing, which is it ices and then you remove the ice. So this currently does not affect the flight mechanics. I would like to add that. So what I'll probably do is when, for example, like here you have a timer, and so if the rain sensor has been on for 10 seconds, it will turn on a light to tell you, hey, you have ice. You then press the button. The button will then de-ice, and then, you'll be good. And so what I'll do is, if this has been going on, and what I'll do is add a, like another timer. So let's say the timer has been going for, say, 30 seconds. It will then activate the anti-flaps. And so if you have not shut off, if you've not de-iced and say, oh, maybe I'll do like 2 minutes. If you haven't de-iced in 2 minutes, it will then negatively affect your flight characteristics. You'll start to lose lift, and then you got to do it. So, let's see. Let's not. You have an extra node. See, I'd have to make this bigger. I'll do it later. Let's see where my anti-flaps are. Oh, let's try it. We could do it now. So here are the anti-flaps right here. Let's see where they go into here, which is flaps. Okay, I have a node in, so right there. So let's go ahead and, let's see, combine seat, panel, deploy the brake, all right. All right, there's the icing simulation there. Where's my spawn? Up there. All right. This is something I started doing a long time ago now that such a lifesaver. Put in a spawn there, and then you know where to build, and you know where not to build, and you know to always keep your spawn close, and I always put it right up here above it, and it's just, because before you'd end up starting building, and then like this would spawn, it would be underneath. It would be like that. It'd be underneath this, like, I can't get it underneath there, but this would be hidden and you couldn't find the friggin' thing. Now it's always like same spot, look up top, there it is, bingo, go. And you know this always stays in place, so you know if I spawn one, it's gonna spawn right there. Big lifesaver. All right, and so where's anti-flap? Spoilers, flaps. Why this is crooked, I don't know. The problem is I have them off of, I have them going off flaps. That's the issue. I'd have to add a separate node for anti-flaps. Stole prop pitch right there. This can go. All right. that can go. Anti-flaps right there. All right, so this will go to here. All right, there's anti-flaps. And then let's just say we bring this out on... All right, and then the icing simulation, let's just say it's channel 1. Gonna be a really slow addition. Okay. All right, so what will happen is when we've been iced up for like say 2 minutes, and that means ice is accumulated, it's going to very slowly start to add negative flap essentially. So it's going to start to, we're going to lose lift. And so that's going to come in play, and then when we turn on the icing system, it's going to then shut it off. And it's pretty much instant. Once you break the ice off, you're back to flying, so it will fix it. All right, now we just need to fix this over here. So here is de-icing. Ooh, I could do this without doing that. Let's do this. Maybe. I should be able to. See where the panel's going on this and what numbers are on the panel right there. Where's the icing here? That's APU. Where's the icing? Wing de-ice right there, prop de-ice 3 and 4. Okay. 3 and 4. I could add some prop de-ice thing too, so that'd be interesting to add. I'd have to add it through each engine, so I probably won't. Alright, that's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then that's all by itself, I believe. Yes, perfect. That's all by itself. Alright, perfect. That's good. So what we'll do is that way I don't have to edit this panel at all. So I don't have to make it bigger. Little tricks to save some composites on there. All right. So let's report out on channel 5. All right. So right here, when the rain sensor is greater than 0, so when it's raining and the outside air temperature is less than 0, makes sense. That's going to then let's see. See what I'm doing here. Okay, don't give me the end then, you brigger. Alright, so when the outside air temperature is less than 0 and this is greater than that, and we're going to do a separate timer. Let's see if I already have this. Let's see. So, de-icing panel. All right, so essentially, let's cut out that. So this here will give us a blinker if we're icing. So what we're going to do is, if we're icing, this is going to go. And we'll set the time. So ice simulation time, say 2 minutes. So 2 minutes, that's going to report out on 5. All right, that will report out on 5. And then what we can do is we can take this here and we can run that over to icing simulation. All right, so when we have been icing up for more than 2 minutes, I gotta double check it. When we've been icing up for more than 2 minutes, we'll get a signal that will start to increase the anti-flaps. As soon as we've not been icing for more than 2 minutes, so as soon as we turn on the de-icing, it's going to then snap us back. So that should be fine. And then I need a hookup anti-flap, which is a bunch of hookup. I think what I'm going to do is, we have an absolute shitload here, and save myself an absolute headache here. So flaps will become anti-flaps, because I already have them connected. Just so I don't have to rehook them up. Okay. Now, if we do look at that, do that. Now it saves me a hell of a lot of time hooking things up, so. Because now the anti-flaps are already connected to everything, and then flaps, if I can find them. Where the hell are flaps? Flaps right here. Flaps are just these 4 panels, so, nope. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. So when we ice up, the anti-flaps will give us negative lift, will give us a ton of drag, and we'll lose some lift. So it will also when we put in the flaps. So start to act like we're getting a bunch of drag. You're likely not. If you ice up really badly, you start to have a bunch of problems. But what's essentially happening is you're changing your stall speed. And so that's essentially what my anti-flap is doing, is you're losing lift. It's on the main, it's on the wing. Generally speaking, the ice is not going to make it back to the control surfaces. What's going to happen here is I'll do a quick ice demonstration. What time is it? I got to get moving here. And probably finish up here soon, but. So like here, oh Christ, roll R, 2560 by 14, that's fine, we'll do that. All right, so if we look at what's gonna happen with icing problems. So you have the bottom of your wing, you have the top of your wing, all right. So there's your wing. All right. So there's the shape of the wing. All right. So what you want is you want good boundary layer. You don't want boundary layer separation. And so as the air comes in, you want it to essentially adhere. And especially the better it adheres, you start to get into laminar flow. And that's peachy keen. Awesome. You want good flow. That's what you want it to look like. All right. Now, what happens in a stall is you're essentially taking, I did I put that on layer 2? Fuck, I didn't. All right, let's do this. Let's go like that. Let's go grab this. All right, there we go. All right, that's on the other layer now. All right, so when you start to stall, stall is not speed. Stall, fuck. Stall is not speed, stall is angle. All right, you can stall, there's something called an accelerated stall. Let's say you're in a jet, right? It doesn't have to be a jet, but let's say you're in a high-speed jet and you start going down towards the ground, right? Even though you're going really, really fast, and then, oh my God, the ground's coming up, and you over-rotate, you will stall. You can stall into the ground going 300 knots, no problem. You know, it's angle of attack to the relative wind. Relative wind. All right. And so that's what's important with the stalls. Angle of attack to the relative wind. All right. So what happens is, as you increase your angle of attack to the relative wind, this is when you stall. And so what happens now is the relative wind, okay? So the relative wind, Craig's on a cracker, if I can get this to go. Let's do it on another layer. All right, so here's your relative wind. All right, if the relative wind is like this and you hit the bottom of the wing, it's going to go like this, and it's never really going to reattach like this. Like, well, you'll still have relative wind coming up like this, so this will not happen, that curly Q there. But what will happen is you'll have relative wind coming like this. That one will choose to go down, down, path of least resistance, right? Then this one will go here. But it's not going to adhere nicely to the wing because it's past the critical angle of attack. So what happens is it goes like this. And you get swirls in here. This is turbulent flow. Turbulent flow, no bueno. And so now you have all this turbulent flow on the top of the wing. That's what a stall is, okay? And so what happens with a what happens in a icing, really bad icing condition is this. So you want, again, ideally, you want your the airflow to be nice and adhered to the wing. All right, we saw what stall looks like. All right, now we're going to start putting in some ice. So ice is going to look like this, right? You start building up ice on the surface of the wing. It's not a big deal if, let's say, this is where your boots are, right? Let's go. Let's go like this, go like this, go like this. So you have a boot. The boot's a pneumatic device on the front of the leading edge of the wing, and it fills with air. So there's you pump bleed air into that, it inflates, and because it inflates, it cracks off the ice. And so what you want to do is you want to build up a little bit of ice, and then you want to crack it off, and it deflates, builds up ice, inflates, cracks off the ice, deflates. If you left it inflated, what would happen is it would then build a big shell of ice, and as the boot deflates, it would not be able to inflate enough to break it off. So it goes through a cycle. When you turn off, it deflates, inflates, deflates, inflates, deflates, inflates. Now, if you don't turn the system on early enough, what happens is, notice, right here, the ice is not past the boot. So the boot can inflate and crack the ice. The problem is if you wait too long, if we could get the right color, if you wait too long, you'll notice the ice starts to go behind the boot, and this is where it gets dangerous. This is what happened to that ATR crash at Eagle. So now you go ahead and you, I should have put this on another layer. Let's stand by. Okay, let's do another layer real fast. Then I gotta go. All right, do one more layer. All right. So the ice starts building up, right? And you crack it off, it goes away. The problem is if you wait too long, and this is what happened with the ATR, is they were told to wait longer than they should have by the manual from ATR. And the ice built up behind. So the problem now is you go to knock off the ice, right? And so, let's just go 50. Fuck it. So you go to knock off the ice, and the boot only goes to here. So the boot broke off all the ice. That's fine. But you're still in icing conditions. So here comes the ice again, right? And now this already has ice on it, so it builds up even bigger. And so you go ahead and you run the boot again, and it cracks off that ice, but this is still there. And then you go ahead and you start building up more ice, and then this gets worse and worse and worse. This is a huge exaggeration. You don't need anywhere near that much ice to be an absolute disaster. You just need a tiny little bit of ice to be a real disaster. And so anyways, you have this big bit of ice on the back here, okay? And so now we look at our relative airflow again, and what this is going to do is increase the stall speed. All right, so now the wind comes in like, oh, Jesus Christ, that's terrible. The wind comes in like this. Give me like 15, man. All right, the wind comes in like this, and it comes up, and it goes up and over the ice, and you start getting turbulent flow behind it. And so what you're doing is you're raising the speed at which you'll stall. So let's say normal configuration coming into land, you're going to stall at 120 knots. Because, again, it's angle of attack. What the thing with the speed is at 120 knots, normally my angle of attack is below stall. All right. Now, the problem is, for example, if you went down to 80 knots, what's really happened is I have to increase my angle of attack to maintain altitude at 80 knots, and that increase in angle of attack now exceeds the critical angle of attack, so I will stall at 80 knots. Not because the speed matters, because the angle of attack to relative wind matters. When you put a bunch of ice on here, if normally you can come in 120 knots, now you might have to come in at 200 knots because you know, you don't have as much lift in the wing, so at 200 knots, you'll still be below critical angle of attack. But if you go slower than that, your angle of attack has to increase, and you hit critical angle of attack, and then you stall. And eventually, you could build up so much ice that no matter what, you're going to stall, because you would need to be at 300 knots to maintain enough lift. Because as you lose lift, you need to increase your speed to increase airflow to increase lift. And so you get in this bad situation where that's what happens. So in my system, what's essentially happening is I am decreasing lift. I am decreasing the lift. Oh, Jesus Christ. Could you click when I click? Thanks, guy. I clicked it. I just didn't click enough times. There we go. You're decreasing the lift on the wing. And so what happens in my simulation with this is I have to increase the angle of attack, and eventually I'm going to increase the angle of attack and slow down, and I'll stall. So that's what I'm doing. Generally speaking, if you notice, the air gets turbulent, then the air will come back, and it will generally come back. So your control surfaces will be somewhat effective still, but you're going to be losing lift. And so you still might be able to, you'll still be able to run your ailerons. Your tail generally does not ice up all that much. You do have boots on your tail. I will put boots up here. I have not done that. Let's do that. Yeah, I got to do a bunch of paint blocking bullshit. Let's just do it here for now. Oh my God, give me the colors that I want, you fucker. There we go. So like you'd have boots on your tail as well. But for example, you would lose your elevator effectiveness if your tail did ice up. That would happen. But generally, like, in the boots don't extend past there. You could stall out your tail, but for the most part, you're mainly worrying about your wing. So cutting out effectiveness on aileron, yeah, you could get turbulent flow in front of the aileron. It cuts down the aileron, but you're going to have bigger problems well before that. If you build up enough ice to not be able to run your ailerons, you've already stalled at that point, generally speaking. So that's kind of the issue with that. Let's save this real quick, and then I'll just show you one quick picture, and then I got to go. All right, so like, let's see. So on the Eclipse 500, it has boots. If I can find a reasonable picture that doesn't suck. So here you notice it has boots. It has boots. Okay. Those are the boots. Those are pneumatic boots. When I flew this airplane, the It's a really crooked, incestuous thing they've got going on now in aviation. That's one of the reasons why Boeing is having all the issues they're having is Boeing pays the inspectors. They're hired. Boeing employs the inspectors who are then expected to say, hey, this doesn't pass muster, you got to fix this. The problem is they're afraid that if they speak up or they say, Boeing, no, this doesn't pass, they'll get fired. The inspectors should always work for the FAA. They should always be paid by the FAA so that they're not afraid to say, nope, not going to cut it. Same thing happened at Eclipse, to my understanding, was the inspectors were being paid by Eclipse, and they certified the boots when they should not have been certified. The FAA went back and looked at them. This plane had a bunch of stuff that was goofy. This is the static port right here. Static port should be right here. They put it here. Should be right here. This would get water in it. There's a reason why it's here, so it doesn't get water in it. They put it right here. Got water in it. So there are a bunch of problems with that, and so when the planes came out, we were told not to use the boots. The boots were placarded, and the breaker was pulled because the boots were not certified. They were not legal to use. And so we would go flying. We had no de-icing capability. And so we were not allowed to go into icing conditions because the boots were not certified. Now, if you look, there's a silver area around the engine nacelle. That is because hot bleed air from the engine would go into there from the compressor section, would go in there, and if super cold water hit it, it would flash and go. Here, the ice would build up. You'd turn on the boots, it'd break the ice off. Okay. Now, if you took like if you look at 145, which I have flown this very airplane. If you look at the 145, you see the silver on the front of the wing, leading edge of the wing. You see the silver right here. You see the silver up there. That's what's known as a hot wing. So hot bleed air comes out of the engine. It goes through here. It goes through here, and it goes through here. And so if the water hits it, it's like at a couple hundred degrees. Water is not going to freeze. It's going to flash off and be gone. And so a hot wing is better. But a hot wing requires you to run hot bleed air through the tail, through the wings. And so it's expensive, and it has to be shielded so that you don't have hot air starting fires. And so it's a big to do, and it's more money. And so when you have a tiny little Barbie jet, you want to put in a boot system because it's cheaper. So you can have cooler bleed air coming in, much colder air come through here to inflate the boots. You don't need hot air going through. So that's the difference between anti-ice. Anti-ice is what this says. Don't go there. Anti-ice prevents ice from ever sticking. De-icing lets the ice stick, and then it breaks it off. This had both anti-ice and de-icing on it. So, all right, so I think we'll finish up there. Let's go quickly catch up on chat. Nope. Generally, it's anti-ice. So, for example, in the 145, I showed this before, but right, where the hell is it? It's up here. Let's see if I can zoom in close enough to see it. It's right here. This is the icing probe. I think we have one on both sides. I think it's either this one or I think it's this one. I think we had two AOA probes. This is the icing probe here. It sticks out. It has a little dong hanging off. And as you fly into icing conditions, the water would hit the probe and freeze. It would change the vibration. It would automatically turn on the heats of the probe, melt the ice. If it iced up, say, within 10 seconds later, it would say, yep, we're still in icing conditions, and it would open the valves. It would let the hot air come out of the engine and go into the wings, nacelles, and tail. Once the icing was over, it would shut the valves, and then it would, because the air comes right out, and then it shoots out in the atmosphere eventually. But it goes through the wing, and then it goes out. And so once you're out of icing conditions, it shuts off the anti-ice. Generally, well, they do have some automated boot systems, but generally speaking, you would wait for the light. The light would come on. We're icing. You would then turn on the boots. They would go inflate, deflate, inflate, deflate. When the light goes out telling you're outside of icing conditions, you then shut the boots back off. That's generally how it works. There are some more automated systems in some planes than others. And hello there, Owl. All right, guys, I think we'll finish up there. I got to go. But thank you guys for watching. If you like the video, make sure you like the video. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Check out the weekly update. That video came out. And I will see you guys in the next one. Adieu.